I awoke from a deep slumber only to discover that every member of my sect had vanished into thin air. The first thing I did was head to the sect's scripture pavilion to sign in for my daily attendance. Because the system informed me that in 3 years the world would face a great heavenly catastrophe, I began scavenging for resource to ensure my own survival. I gathered sect resources to advance my cultivation realm, never suspecting that the entire sect hadn't suddenly disappeared, but were merely trapped by an unforeseen incident. They were caught within a secret realm located directly above the sect. Consequently, my every action was being watched by the entire sect. As they watched me use 8th grade spirit liquid as water and consume 9th grade elixirs like candy, the elders' faces flushed with indignation. This brat must not be allowed to continue, they thought. But when they witnessed me, despite possessing only a mortal body, stepping into the 8th floor of the scripture pavilion, the expressions of the high-level sect members shifted instantly. This boy is the hope of our sect. At this moment, I was wandering aimlessly, observing the sect, and the fact that it had been cleaned out left me utterly bewildered. What is the meaning of this? However, the strongest self-rescue system had successfully synchronized, informing me that the host's world was 1024 days away from a great heavenly catastrophe that would cause the tragic deaths of trillions of lives. Only by reaching the heavenly Venerate realm could one grasp a glimmer of hope for survival. This system would exert all its power to assist the host in surviving the calamity. After digesting the system's information, I was completely speechless. I suspected that the old fogies in the sect had received the news beforehand and fled in unison. Damn them, they didn't even take me with them, I cursed, though fortunately, heaven had not cut off my path to survival. I still had the system. After inquiring about how to operate it, I received a mission. Go to the scripture pavilion to sign in, and upon completion I would receive a reward, a 10,000-fold increase in my innate talent. At the same time, within the boundless void above the Tai True sect, tens of thousands of disciples were closing their eyes, focusing on enlightenment. The sect master and the elders at the center wore unsightly expressions. They had discovered that a problem had occurred within the secret realm, rendering the entrance and exit incantations completely ineffective. Fellow brothers and sisters, do not panic. The Tai True sect has been passed down for generations. Perhaps the spatial structure has merely loosened. We need only wait for the supreme elders to repair it. Seeing the three magnificent figures above them, the high-level members finally eased their hanging hearts. The supreme elders are exerting themselves. We must not rest either. Does anyone have a brilliant plan that could help us escape our predicament? Hearing this, everyone fell into deep thought. Not long after, Elder Nongong of the Tianji Peak was the first to speak. I recall that there is still one person left outside. 3 years ago, the saintess went to seclude herself beneath the dragon-slaying cliff in order to break through the realm. The Tai True sect possesses a secret jade. It can also open a passage from the outside. Once the holy maiden emerges from seclusion and discovers that the sect is devoid of life, with her keen wisdom, she will surely deduce that we are trapped within this place. Hearing this, the elders each exhaled a sigh of relief. At that very moment, an elder suddenly cried out in shock. Look there, how is it that someone is still standing outside the outer sect gate? This is absolutely impossible. They cannot be a disciple of our sect. The moment the Tai Genju realm is opened, anyone with a sect token would be instantly drawn inside. How could he possibly be standing there so brazenly? As for my identity as an outer sect reserved disciple, I remained oblivious to the situation below, and upon entering the mission hall, I began to swipe contribution points onto my own token. The elder in charge of the mission hall was so furious his face twisted. It was truly outrageous. This brat dares to steal contribution points while the sect is empty. Does he have no sense of shame? One must realize these points are earned by disciples risking their very lives to complete missions. A character of such low moral standing is nothing but scum. He is fundamentally unworthy of our Taigen sect. Amidst the torrent of curses from the elders, I swiped away a massive amount of contribution points in one breath before piloting the flying boat toward the scripture pavilion. He is quite clever, isn't he? As soon as he secured the flying boat, he headed straight there. The sect master stood with his hands behind his back, offering a cold sneer, while the peak master of the Chuan Gong Peak cast a glance filled with mockery. He is clearly aiming for the scripture pavilion. He isn't stupid, he simply overestimates himself. Our sect's scripture pavilion, aside from the first floor, which can be opened with contribution points, relies entirely on innate talent for the higher levels. The higher one's talent, the more powerful the secret manuals and divine techniques stored on the upper floors. Recall that in those years, Holy Maiden Jiang relied on her myriad lotus primordial body to charge all the way to the 8th floor. This thieving brat has such abysmal aptitude. I fear he will find it difficult to even cultivate the techniques on the first floor. Arriving at the entrance of the scripture pavilion, I touched my disciple token to the mechanism. The stone tablet instantly deducted 10,000 contribution points. Having entered the sect so late, I was entirely ignorant of the rules within the scripture pavilion. I naively assumed that once inside I could choose any floor I pleased. Ding, the host has arrived at the scripture pavilion. Mission completed. A new mission is now initiated. Cultivate any technique to reach the body-tempering realm. Mission initiated. Reward a 50% discount voucher for the system mall. The brat has entered the scripture pavilion. Guess how many floors he can ascend. How many floors? In my opinion, he will likely only manage the basement levels, if not the floor beneath that. As soon as these words were spoken, the elders burst into laughter. Even the usually stern sect master allowed the corners of his mouth to lift in amusement. Just as everyone was laughing and chatting, I suddenly made a move. What is this brat trying to do? Could it be that he intends to ascend to the second floor? This thief has already plundered the sect's contribution points. To now covet a high-level cultivation manual is truly insatiable greed. Why pay him any mind? That staircase leads only to the second floor. He wouldn't be able to ascend it even if he lived 1,000 lifetimes. Indeed, it is absolutely impossible for this fellow to climb those stairs. The elders wore expressions ranging from pity to mockery, while a saint's son merely shook his head. You brat, they thought, to think you would act so recklessly, believing the sect to be devoid of watchers. Every one of your actions has been within our sight. To now harbor the delusion of setting foot on the second floor of the scripture pavilion is utterly laughable. Thus, amidst this bizarre atmosphere, everyone watched as I stepped calmly toward the second floor. Before their shock could even take hold, I had already taken the final step. An instant silence fell over the entire assembly. The master of the merit transmission peak furrowed his brow. Brat, he actually ascended to the second floor? Could it be that he possesses some hidden talent after all? Yet the report from the outer sect elder clearly stated that he was merely a reserved disciple. Upon reaching the second floor, I cast a casual glance around before continuing my ascent toward the third. This time interest peaked among the crowd, and their preconceived notions began to dissipate. The sector even began to quietly consider the prospects of grooming him. The nature of man is inherently good. If this lad truly possesses innate talent, he could be spared death. After a suitable punishment, he could be trained properly. Just as this thought crossed his mind, he suddenly noticed that upon reaching the third floor, I did not stop at all. In the blink of an eye, I had reached the fourth. This time, the entire crowd was utterly shaken and a wave of commotion rippled through the ranks of the inner disciples. For even the lowest-ranked inner sect disciples had only managed to reach the fourth floor, and only after risking their lives to seize opportunities did they manage to rise from the 3,600 outer disciples to become the 72 inner ones. Are you really going to let your Tao hearts be shaken just because some commoner-bodied brat reached the fourth floor? Among us true inner disciples, who among us doesn't possess the aptitude to reach the fifth or sixth floor? At this height, even if he worked himself to death, he will never ascend any further. The top-ranked inner disciples could not help but sneer, shaking their heads with the unmistakable arrogance of true prodigies. He has reached the fifth floor, someone suddenly exclaimed in shock. The elite disciples who had been so certain just moments ago now stood slack-jawed. The prodigies were frozen in place, rubbing their eyes in disbelief. Once they confirmed they had not seen incorrectly, their complexions turned deathly pale. The lower-ranked inner disciples, seeing this, immediately began to jeer. Ha ha ha, you all were speaking quite boldly just a moment ago. Now that this common-bodied brat has easily ascended to the sixth floor, isn't your own Tao heart beginning to crumble? To think this reserve disciple could actually reach the sixth floor of the scripture pavilion. Everyone stood paralyzed. One must remember that many of the high-ranking elders present had only managed to reach this. This individual possesses the aptitude of a sect elder. His complexion is radiant, devoid of the previous gloom. With such natural talent, if nurtured properly, his future potential is limitless. That he will become a personal disciple is a certainty. As for his unauthorized use of contribution points, he is merely a mortal of low standing who is unaware of the existence of the Tai Zhenshu. This is to be expected. The peak master of the transmission peak suddenly stroked his beard, smiling as he said, I find this young man's character to be resolute, possessing the demeanor of a gentleman. Even when faced with an empty sect treasury, he remains calm and composed. This is the bearing of a hero. In the future, he will surely become a pillar of this sect. I know all of you, fellow brothers, have been busy since the recent crisis, so I am willing to share the burden of the sect by taking this young man under my personal tutelage. The decision of the transmission peak elder to take me as his personal disciple left many disciples filled with envy and admiration, but the elders of other peaks rolled their eyes in contempt, thinking the old man truly shameless. They reasoned that if this young man could ascend to the sixth floor with a mortal body, his talent must be monstrous. On what basis should they yield him to that old man? Just as the high-ranking members were arguing to the point of turning red in the face, a voice echoed from the heavens. I happen to have been looking to take on a personal disciple recently. Why not let this Lin Bei come to my Kangjian peak? The elders looked up, their minds trembling. The person who had arrived was none other than the peak master of Kangjian Peak, Luo Liuli, the true combat strength of the sect. Those who were arguing immediately stepped back. Joking aside, competing for a disciple against the senior sister was a recipe for disaster. At this moment, an inner sect deacon suddenly arrived to report that the disciples had finished their meditations and had found the exit to the secret realm. Since it had not yet opened, the crowd began to stir. Sectmaster, should we find a pretext to reassure the disciples? The sectmaster deliberated for a moment, weighing the consequences before speaking calmly. There is no need for concealment, announced the situation to them directly. He used his spiritual projection to broaden his perspective and observe the entire secret realm. The news spread rapidly throughout the sect, and none of the disciples fell into panic or disorder. For when the sky falls, there are those of higher standing to hold it up. Furthermore, my achievements had already spread throughout the sect, causing a massive sensation. At this moment, entirely unaware, I looked at the manual in my hand and shook my head, tiptoeing as I prepared to head toward the seventh floor. Yet, this action of mine instantly caused an uproar in the secret realm, for from the 6th floor of the scripture pavilion and above, each level represents an immense boundary. Most of the peak masters and elders present only possess the aptitude to reach the 6th floor. Those capable of ascending to the 7th floor are limited only to the Tai sect master and Luo Liuli. Lin Bei, entering the scripture pavilion for the first time, surely wishes to test where his limits lie. Once he discovers that the staircase to the 7th floor is as heavy as Mount Tai, he will know to retreat when faced with difficulty. After all, Lin Bei possesses only a mortal body. Hearing this, everyone could not help but nod in agreement. Although a mortal body has strong malleability, its innate talent is mostly limited. To reach the 6th floor is already a rare feat in this world. To reach the 7th is absolutely impossible. At the same time, halfway up the stairs in the scripture pavilion, I could not help but pause and catch my breath, silently cursing who designed this staircase to be so long. If my deductions are correct, at this moment he must feel as though his body is as heavy as Mount Tai, struggling to hold on, with even taking the next step becoming an issue. The junior brothers are quite right. The secret arts of the Tianji peak of the Taijian sect have always calculated with perfect precision, and the junior brothers are even hailed as the prodigies of Central Province, renowned throughout the world. How could they possibly be wrong? After resting for a moment, I continued to climb. Meanwhile, facing no resistance, I quickly reached the final 2 steps. This action caused the elders in the sky to stare with their eyes wide open. Cough, cough. It seems this boy is more tenacious than we imagined, but to reach the 7th floor with a mortal physique is nothing but a delusion. Since the inception of our sect, there has never been such a precedent. I suspect Lin Bei has already reached his limit. Look at the way he is gasping for air. I fear it is not just exhaustion, his muscles are burdened, and his internal organs are surely enduring excruciating pain. He will likely not be able to take another step for the remainder of the path. Hearing Zhuge Ming deliver his judgment once again, the crowd looked down to see that Lin Bei was indeed gasping heavily. The elders, one by one, shook off their previous embarrassment. Deep down, they were convinced that he had finally reached his limit. They exchanged glances, then scrambled to echo the sentiments of junior brother Zhuge, praising his keen eyes that could pierce through any illusion. Indeed, I see that this boy has truly reached his breaking point. Even a prodigy of our sect would be considered a top-tier talent to achieve this. Junior brother is truly the most sagacious peak master of Tianji Peak. The title of Little God of Divination of Central Province, passed down through the generations, is certainly no empty reputation. Just then a core disciple suddenly gasped in shock, exclaiming that he had succeeded. The crowd was momentarily stunned, each of them lowering their heads to witness the result. They watched as I ascended with the speed of a bird in flight, taking 2 steps at once. As I reached the 7th floor of the scripture pavilion, the entire assembly stood frozen, as if hit by a sudden pause button. Elder Nonggong of Tiango Peak had eyes so wide they nearly fell from their sockets. A long moment passed before a deafening uproar erupted. Many elders and even the formidable peak masters could no longer maintain their composure. This individual clearly possesses a common mortal physique, yet he surpasses those with special constitutions and has now set foot on the 7th floor of the scripture pavilion, shattering the limitations of the mortal body. This feat completely upended everyone's perception, and the resulting shockwaves spread through the inner and outer sects of Taijianju in mere breaths. Tens of thousands of disciples were struck with awe, and the discussions erupted instantly. Meanwhile, I had finished reviewing all the cultivation manuals on the 7th floor, finding none that were suitable. Yet I gained a deeper understanding of the vastness of the cultivation world. I had finally formed a clear concept of this world. Simply put, this is a world of high martial power with explosive combat capabilities. The strong can move mountains and drain seas with a single thought. Their words become law, and they can even reach a state of immortality. With a heart full of anticipation for the supreme cultivation techniques, I did not hesitate to stride onward and upward. This time my movements were swift, and I did not even bother to catch my breath. In one sprint, I covered 80 steps, though I had no idea what kind of shock this simple act had caused to those outside. At this moment, the entire sect from top to bottom stood paralyzed in place, followed by a chorus of cold gasps. Am I dreaming? Could my eyes be deceiving me? Lin Bei has actually stepped onto the 8th floor. Lin no, senior brother Lin is a human or a god. Whether they were outer sect handymen or elite inner sect disciples, in this instant they were driven into an endless frenzy because of me. The scene descended into such chaos that even the elders of the various peaks were unable to restore order. In other words, they themselves were far from composed. Compared to the disciples, they understood far better what the 8th floor of the scripture pavilion signified. Several elders at the peak master level were so moved that their aged eyes brimmed with tears. Within the inner circle, only the Holy Sun stood with a vacant expression, nearly collapsing to the ground. At this moment, only a single thought occupied his mind. It is finished. The Taiyi Holy Sun was in a state of absolute panic. This was not mere overthinking, but the existential dread of seeing his status crumble. He, the possessor of the solar holy body and the leader of the younger generation. He had assumed the position of sect master was already within his grasp. He never expected such a variable to emerge midway. Just moments ago, the sect master had even offered to abdicate his position if only he could take the boy as his disciple. This revelation had left the Holy Sun stunned, and before he could even catch his breath, the boy delivered another crushing blow. The sight of the boy ascending to the 8th floor of the scripture pavilion nearly caused his soul to flee his body. A mortal frame ascending to the 8th floor. This was a feat unseen since the dawn of time. This did not merely mean the boy's talent rivaled his own, it meant the throne of the Holy Sun was about to change hands. Could it be that all his years of meticulous scheming were truly destined to fall short? Would he lose to a mere outsider who had not even begun his cultivation? The Holy Sun suddenly clenched his fists, a flicker of ruthless intent flashing in his eyes. Although the boy's talent was monstrous, he was in the end a mere mortal with no cultivation base. Conversely, he himself had begun body tempering at age 10 and had undergone decades of bitter training. He was now at the peak of the spirit-severing realm, only a single step away from nirvana. This was his absolute trump card to crush the boy. Moreover, the boy possessed no seniority and no network of influence. What could he possibly use to compete? His own lunar holy body was a perfect match for the Earth Nether Geating Dragon technique, the treasure guarding the 8th floor. This heaven-grade low-tier cultivation manual allowed one to progress from body tempering all the way to the heavenly venerate realm, and its enhancement of the soul was truly terrifying, although it was only a lower-tier version of the clear brilliance transformation, and he felt a tinge of regret that it was not the legendary dragon god divine art of the highest floor. He reasoned that the boy would at most linger on the 8th floor. He would never even touch anything superior to the Earth Nether Guiding Dragon technique. Coupled with the gap of 3 major cultivation realms, he convinced himself he remained the high and mighty Holy Sun. Thinking this, he straightened his back and clasped his hands behind him, once again feigning the demeanor of an inscrutable, heaven-defying prodigy. At the same time, inside the scripture pavilion, I was idly toying with a jade slip. It is said that peerless cultivation techniques possess a sentient spirit and will choose their own master. The scene before me served as living proof of that ancient legend. These jade slips were emitting a brilliant radiance as if competing to curry favor with me. I examined the brightest jade slip in my hand and frowned. It was indeed brilliant, but unfortunately I had no interest in this particular manual of divine cultivation. Under the horrified gaze of the Holy Sun, I tossed it aside as casually as one would discard a piece of trash. I could not help but mutter to myself, "It is not that you are not good, my dear technique. It is simply that my standards are too high." This single act of indifference was more agonizing to him than death itself. The Holy Sun's eyelids twitched uncontrollably. His heart ached, for the treasure he cherished above all else was considered worthless in my eyes. That is a heaven-tier cultivation technique. How can you simply toss it away like that? The crushing psychological disparity left him on the verge of suffocation. Having finished the miscellaneous travelogues in my hands, I stretched and began walking toward the stairs leading to the 9th floor. Since I had come this far, I had to see the highest level. After all, it is common knowledge that the finest treasures are always kept on the top floor. With that, I took the stairs 2 at a time, moving upward with effortless speed. Little did I know this casual display caused the mental defenses of the Grand Elders watching from above to shatter, their eyes widening as if they had seen a ghost. The 9th floor, he actually intends to ascend to the 9th floor. Is this brat made of iron? Everyone was losing their minds. One must remember that even the peerless prodigy from 1,000,000 years ago, who possessed the chaotic divine body, had to crawl up these stairs on his hands and knees. Yet here I was, a mere mortal body, moving as if flying up the steps. This was not merely climbing stairs. This was clearly walking on flat ground. Even Lua Liuli, usually the epitome of composure, found her expression crumbling under the sheer absurdity of the scene. The entire elite leadership of the Tai True sect had forgotten how to breathe, their gazes locked onto my upright silhouette. 70 steps, 80 steps, only 10 remained until the summit. By all logic, this was where the pressure should be at its peak, sufficient to crush a person into a pulp. Yet, I remained breathless and calm, as if strolling through a garden, leading some to suspect that the formation of the scripture depository had malfunctioned. In the moment just before I reached the summit, even the 3 supreme elders, who had been in seclusion, were stirred, unable to resist casting a divine sense to observe the situation. In this instant, the gaze of the entire sect was fixated on me alone. From an unknown nobody to the center of everyone's attention, it took me only a single ascent. I leaped lightly, my feet landing softly upon the floor with a quiet thud. The crisp sound of footsteps echoed throughout the silent 9th floor. At that same moment, the entire sect erupted into chaos, a mortal body reaching the peak of the 9th level. This was a miracle. Something never seen in 5,000 years had manifested before their very eyes. In that moment, everyone understood one thing. As long as the sect could weather its current crisis, I would surely ascend to the heavens in a single bound, becoming the most dazzling legend in the entire world of cultivation. However, just as the entire sect was ready to place me upon a pedestal, a bucket of cold water was poured directly over their heads. Shu Yue of the scripture pavilion suddenly rushed out, his face dark and grim. Reporting to the sect master, a junior elder from my peak has just sent word to confess his guilt, stating that a few days ago, the spirit stone formation in the scripture pavilion lost its efficacy. Although he had reported it, he gave in to greed and embezzled a significant portion of the supreme grade spirit stones that were delivered for the repairs. In other words, the talent assessment formation in the scripture pavilion may have truly been malfunctioning. The moment these words were spoken, the scene fell into a deathly silence. All the elders looked toward Shu Yue in astonishment. The elder of the Heavenly Craft Peak was the first to shout and interrogate him. "Junior brother, speak no more. The scripture pavilion's assessment formation was personally constructed by the sect's founding ancestor. How could it possibly break so easily? Seeing this, Shu Yue bowed toward the void above. He cupped his hands and said, "Naturally, I dare not doubt the founding ancestor, but even if the moon-taming technique is powerful, it cannot defeat the passage of time. The scripture pavilion has stood for 10,000 years. It is difficult to guarantee that the rules of the formation remain as potent as they once were." Many other elders, hearing the dialogue between the two, began to regain their composure. Lin Bei had been in the sect for half a year without even completing body tempering, yet today he had broken records one after another. If the scripture pavilion's assessment formation had indeed malfunctioned, then everything could be explained. As soon as these words settled, the eyes of the inner disciples shifted. I instantly transformed from a peerless genius into a complete fool. The female disciples who were previously casting amorous glances restrained themselves, their expressions of admiration and excitement returning to icy indifference. After all the commotion, it turned out to be a fraud. The one who felt most slighted was the Tai Holy Son, who had previously looked like a defeated fighting cock. At this moment, he seemed to come back to life with renewed vigor. "I told you so, so-called strongest mortal body. It turns out it was just a glitch." The wind calmed and the rain stopped, and he felt like himself again, looking at me with nothing but contempt and arrogance. It was as if I were nothing but trash who had stumbled into success by sheer luck. The sect master, meanwhile, looked as if he had swallowed a fly, extremely displeased. To take Lin Bei as a disciple, only to find he was talentless and had climbed the rankings based on a broken formation. If this got out, wouldn't it be the laughingstock of the world? Just then, a cold, elegant voice suddenly rang out. "Since the sect master has gone back on his word, this disciple shall belong to me." As these words fell from Lualuli, the entire assembly stood stunned. The sect master's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared down at the scene below. Something was amiss. If the formation had truly malfunctioned, why would Lualuli still be fighting over Lin Bei, unless she had perceived something others could not? A bolt of realization flashed through the sect master's mind, and Li Qingyi abruptly regained his senses. "This is not right. Lin Bei's talent is no fabrication." The entire crowd was left in a daze, and Shu Yue began to grow frantic. "Sect master, the formation is broken. On what grounds do you make such a claim?" "On what grounds?" "On the grounds of those jade slips on the 7th and 8th floors." The sect master drew a sharp, deep breath, his eyes burning with intensity. A formation might deceive, but the heaven-grade medicinal herbs and manuals certainly would not. When Lin Bei stepped onto the 8th floor, the myriad books illuminating the heavens erupted with overwhelming radiance. That was the manual actively choosing its master. Such recognition is 10,000 times more authoritative than any tattered formation. These words served as a sudden awakening. The elders, who had looked so embarrassed moments ago, now changed their expressions as quickly as turning a page, as if they had suddenly lost all sense of shame. "RTNU sect, I told you all this boy has the aptitude of a great emperor. Indeed, I saw his extraordinary bone structure. He is surely a Keelan child descended from the heavens." Listening to these old fossils flatter him with such shamelessness, the surrounding inner sect disciples could only twitch their lips in disdain. The most miserable of all was the Tai Saint child, who had just managed to pull himself together. His Dao heart let out a crisp crack and shattered into pieces once more. One moment fake, the next moment real. Are you all playing a game with me? Yet at this moment I had already stepped onto the 9th floor of the scripture pavilion. As I ascended the final 2 steps, my shoulders suddenly sank, as if a pair of invisible hands were pressing down upon me with immense force. I simply shrugged, ignoring the pressure entirely. I marched forward with steady, purposeful strides. There were no bookshelves here, only several dozen jade slips suspended in midair. A terrifying aura drifted throughout the void. The very instant I took my first step, every single suspended jade slip reacted as if they had encountered some horrific existence. They all shuddered in unison. These items that were once aloof and unreachable suddenly lowered themselves by several inches, their brilliance completely retracted. The elders outside knitted their brows in confusion. What is happening? Could it be that Lin Bei lacks sufficient talent, and the manuals have no interest in him? However, the next second left everyone gaping in shock. After a brief moment of silence, the dozens of top-tier heaven-grade jade slips suddenly erupted with blinding, 10,000-foot radiance. They streaked through the air in arcs, competing to rush toward me, circling around my body like a swarm of frantic courtiers. Zhuge Ming, master of the Tianji Peak, let out a bitter laugh and exclaimed, "It is not that his talent is insufficient. It is that his talent is too terrifying." These jade slips weren't ignoring Lin Bei earlier. They were likely stunned into silence. Now that they have recovered, they are all fighting to be acknowledged by him. This, a blank slate without restricted attributes, compatible with all laws and techniques under the heavens. The eyes of the Tai Saint child nearly bulged from their sockets. He had laid his gaze upon the divine technique he had dreamed of for lifetimes. The dragon transformation art of clarity. At this moment, he was trailing behind like a lowly, desperate sycophant. Lin Bei didn't even spare him a glance. This staggering disparity in status caused his mental state to shatter completely. Witnessing this shocking spectacle of 10,000 techniques paying homage, great sect master Li Qingyi made a decisive choice. She stepped into the void, a profound aura of Tao surging around her, and bowed respectfully toward the deepest depths of the sect. Reporting to the Supreme Elder, Lin Bei possesses the ancient golden talent that suppresses the ages. I propose we restart the sect's supreme sequence. Grant him an identity and status that transcends even the saint children and saint maidens. I, along with the entire sect, am willing to exhaust all resources to protect Lin Bei. As these words fell, the entire assembly erupted into chaos. The sect's supreme sequence, a position that stands above even the saint children and saint maidens. The elders drew sharp breaths, their expressions shifting into sudden realization. Given the heaven-defying aptitude displayed by Lin Bei, even granting him the status of a sect master would not be excessive. Tai Saint-Child fell into a state of utter panic. Upon hearing the words restart the supreme sequence, his knees turned to jelly and he nearly collapsed on the spot. He had expected to merely suffer a blow to his pride, but he never imagined they would threaten his very livelihood. Once Lin Bei ascends to that position, his own title as the leader of the male disciples will instantly become a thing of the past. Just as the three supreme elders hesitated, with the entire audience holding their breath for the final verdict, a sudden cry of alarm rang out from the periphery. The grave atmosphere was shattered. As the elders swept their divine senses across the scene, their complexions changed instantly. At this moment, I was atop the peak performing another maneuver. I ceased my wandering and stood firmly in place. In the center of the hall, I held my hands in a loose embrace while a strange white mist roiled before me. Those precious jade slips containing cultivation techniques were now dancing in orbit around this white mist. The Lord of Tiangong Peak, Qi Qing, cried out, "That is the art of refining and integration." This shout left everyone in a state of bewilderment. Immediately after, the elders who had been singing my praises only moments ago flew into a rage. "Stop that reckless brat! What does he think he is doing? Is he trying to destroy the very foundation of our Tai sect?" In a split second, the tide of opinion reversed entirely. The very same people who had just been shouting about the heavens blessing our sect were now old fogies who wished they could rush in and crush me to death. Even the sect master, who had been preparing to grant me the supreme sequence, faltered. At this moment, his expression was as dark as a soot-covered pot. "System, are you certain this isn't a trap?" Standing on the top floor, I held a defensive posture while staring at the masterpiece before me, my heart pounding within my chest. Just 2 minutes ago, the system suddenly announced, "Congratulations, host, for breaking through the feat limits of a mortal body. The hidden reward fusion ticket has been activated." I glanced at the description and was instantly stunned. The fusion ticket could force the success rate of the fusion technique to 100%. One must understand that while the fusion technique is a publicly known tool in the Tu Chen realm, and is reputed to be able to synthesize and advance cultivation manuals out of thin air, it possesses a fatal flaw. It is both a waste of resources and a threat to one's life. To fuse low-grade manuals, one must first master thousands of techniques, spending decades of time to reach the pinnacle, and even then, success is not guaranteed. Furthermore, once the fusion fails, the jade slip acting as the catalyst is immediately destroyed. These heaven-grade manual jade slips are one-of-a-kind treasures. If one is broken, it is lost forever. In the eyes of the elders, I was not cultivating. I was clearly playing with fire using the sect's ancestral treasures. Heaven-grade manuals are precious precisely because they are unique and cannot be replicated. Once a jade slip is damaged, that legacy is lost completely. To let such a legacy vanish from this world, even I felt a surge of trepidation. After all, I did not intend to fuse just one or two. I was going all in on all 37 heaven-grade high-tier manuals on the 9th floor of the Scripture Pavilion. This is the culmination of the Tai True Sect's accumulation over 10,000 years. Even a legendary Supreme Master would find their hands trembling at such a display. System, will this really not cause a catastrophe? I could not help but feel a growing sense of unease. Immediately following my thought, the system's mechanical voice resonated in my mind. "Host, please trust the system. There are only 1,024 days remaining until the world-ending calamity. There is not much time left for you. You must create the strongest technique in the world, one that transcends the heaven grade, if you wish to survive the coming calamity." Hearing this, my heart began to race violently. If I do not take a desperate gamble, only death awaits me. Rather than waiting for death, it is better to stake everything on one throw. The path is laid out before me. What reason do I have to retreat? Do it. I took a deep breath, abandoned all hesitation, and forcefully channeled the fusion technique according to the methods ingrained in my memory. In an instant, the one-time fusion tick dissolved into streams of light, while the 37 jade slips suspended above my head. The very lifeblood of the sect seemed to heed a calling, rushing wildly into the vortex of white mist before me without a single mishap. The spiritual energy within all the jade slips began to disintegrate, disperse, and restructure. The entire 9th floor surged with rolling waves of Tao energy. With my mind clear of distracting thoughts, I focused solely on channeling my cultivation technique. Yet I was entirely unaware that outside the heavens were already collapsing. The very moment I began refining the atmosphere within the Tai, the temperature of the Zhenshu plummeted to the freezing point in an instant. The elders who had once held such high expectations for me now wore faces of ash. The rage in their eyes could surely scorch the heavens. Even the Sword Peak Master Luo Liuli furrowed her brows in silence, but most terrifying of all was the sect leader Li Qingyi. One moment she had intended to raise me to a pedestal, but the next, a mountainous oceanic pressure of killing intent erupted from her body. Her voluminous robes fluttered without wind, the terrifying pressure sweeping across the entire arena in a single instant. Lin Bei has severed the Tai inheritance. His crimes are grave and he deserves execution. These 3 words thundered through the air like a crashing lightning bolt, causing every disciple to tremble in their boots, their spirits shattered. Such is the wrath of a peak-level expert, capable of manipulating the laws of heaven and earth. Resonance with the world is not something an ordinary person can withstand. Everyone stared in terror at my image in the projection. In their hearts, only one thought remained: Lin Bei is finished. Reporting to the sect leader, the law enforcement peak's Elder Wu spoke with a cold, expressionless face, stepping forward to point at my projected figure as he bellowed, "I am certain this boy was sent by hostile forces. Otherwise, how could a normal person commit such a heinous, wicked act?" Severing the sect's thousand-year inheritance, as these words were uttered, the entire place fell into a deathly silence. Under normal circumstances, someone would have surely jumped out to denounce him. But now, whether they were elders from the Heavenly Artisan Peak or the Heavenly Mystery Peak, all remained silent. These were, after all, 37 heaven-grade supreme cultivation manuals. To put it mildly, this was financial ruin. To put it harshly, this was the severing of the human race's martial path. At this moment, within the Taiyi Zhenshu, the cries of condemnation against me formed a relentless chain. Refining all the heaven-grade techniques? How dare he? He lived off the sect's resources, yet he turned around and destroyed the sect's foundation. I wasted my time idolizing him. I must have been blind. Yet, amidst the overwhelming chorus of insults, one person was the most bewildered and also the most delighted: the Saint's son. He stood with his mouth agape, his entire being gripped by confusion. What in the world was happening? He hadn't even had to act, yet Lin Bei had already brought about his own destruction. He had expected a brutal battle, yet the opponent had surrendered directly. The Saint's son nearly let out a joyful laugh, the triumphant. Yet he was the Holy Son. He quickly regained his composure, sensing something amiss. Lin Bei was a creature of anomalies, having reversed forged countless times before. Could this be another elaborate feint? Thus, he suppressed his wild jubilation and stared intensely at me below. Only when he saw the 37 jade slips disintegrate completely and collapse into nothingness did his heart finally settle. Immediately after, he looked toward the heavens, eager to observe the sect master's reaction. That single glance nearly frightened the soul out of his body. He saw a colossal face, forged from pure spiritual energy, thundering into existence across the firmament. It was the Grand Elder. Under such a terrifying master, Li Qingyi seemed as insignificant as an ant. The next moment, a voice that shook the very heavens boomed forth a single word: silence, echoing with an unquestionable force of will. The Grand Elder was enraged, which meant that once the Tai Zhenshu seal was lifted, Lin Bei's head would surely be parted from his shoulders. The Holy Son exhaled a long breath, the heavy stone weighing on his heart finally falling away. In this game, Lin Bei no longer possessed the means to turn the tides. All talk of a resurgence or climbing over his head was nothing more than a pathetic joke. The Tai True sect would always remain the domain of the Holy Son. With this thought, he regained his arrogant, high-spirited demeanor, casting a mocking gaze down at me, the fool who knew not the meaning of death. Just as everyone believed the outcome was set and the entire sect waited to witness my ignominious defeat, a sudden anomaly erupted. A bloom of light detonated from the summit of the scripture depository. A golden lotus of spiritual energy flared, radiant to the extreme. Immediately following, high in the firmament, level with the vast Tai Zhenju, brilliant rays of light tore through the clouds, pouring down like a torrential waterfall. It was not merely light, it was a manifestation of auspicious omens, brimming with the profound truth of the great Tao. Layer upon layer of spiritual mist manifested from the void, instantly enveloping the 9th level of the scripture depository. In that moment, the world fell silent. From the Grand Elder down to the lowliest outer sect chore servant, everyone stood speechless, as if strangled by an invisible hand. Everyone stared, mouths agape, their minds reeling at the sight. Thousands of rays of light shimmered while chanting echoed, and behind me, spectral shadows began to emerge. Some figures sat cross-legged, debating the Tao. Others practiced ancient arts, with lights and shadows weaving together in a display of overwhelming Taoist essence. What in the world is this? The entire sect was rendered completely catatonic. Old Man Zhu of the Tianji Peak felt his jaw nearly drop to the floor. The scene before his eyes had truly left him stunned. He watched as the manifestations of heaven and earth erupted upon me, as if they were as worthless as common dirt. Even separated by the seal of the Tai Zhenju, everyone could feel a suffocating pressure descending upon them. This was no mere illusion. These were genuine auspicious omens of heaven and earth. The Elder of the Hidden Sword Peak spoke with a trembling voice. Back in the day, Luoliuli commanded such dominance that a single sword strike could span 1,000,000 miles. Though the phenomenon Lin Bei has triggered does not match that scale and range, in terms of the pure concentration of laws, this feat by Lin Bei is in no way inferior to the full-strength display of the legendary Luoliuli. At that moment, the entire venue lost all composure. Regardless of whether they were inner sect disciples, outer sect disciples, or arrogant legacy disciples, their minds were reeling in disbelief. As for the high-ranking elders who were clamoring to kill me just a moment ago, they were now breathing heavily, desperately counting on their fingers, trying to make sense of the situation. They racked their brains, yet could not understand why these manifestations were circling around me. Could it be that refining cultivation techniques actually comes with its own special effects? From ancient times to the present, such a thing has never been heard of. At this moment, Sect Master Li Qingyi's entire body went rigid. The burning rage he felt earlier, the urge to purge the sect, was now stifled, choked off like a blocked water pipe, leaving him incredibly uncomfortable. He stared intently at me on the 9th floor. The scripture pavilion was filled with a look of utter bewilderment. A mortal without a shred of cultivation, successfully refining 37 heavenly-grade cultivation manuals, this was truly preposterous. If it were that easy, wouldn't the cultivation world be filled with grand masters of divine arts? But if he had not succeeded, how could one explain these overwhelming, celebratory rays of light? Having lived for 8,000 years, this was the first time his mind could not grasp what was happening. Just as he began to doubt the very nature of existence, a new anomaly occurred. The massive, terrifying aura of spiritual energy in the sky transformed into a stream of light in an instant, crashing down with a deafening roar. As the radiance dissipated, a red-haired youth stood before the crowd. Sectmaster Li Qingyi was so startled he trembled, hastily bowing his hands in greeting to Elder Gui. The newcomer was none other than the Grand Elder Guiyan, who had just shouted that single word earlier. Do not be deceived by his youthful appearance. In reality, he is an ancient monster who has lived for 10,000 years. His temper is notoriously volatile. However, at this moment the Grand Elder didn't even spare the Sectmaster a glance. Those weary, age-old eyes were fixed upon me, filled with immense astonishment. This boy is truly demonic. He clearly possesses no cultivation and has never practiced before. Yet he understands the essence of all these techniques as if they were the lines on his own palm. He hasn't even finished the refinement, and the heavenly Tao is already growing impatient, descending with omens to celebrate. Could it be that such an unreasonable, peerless genius truly exists in this world? Hearing this, Sectmaster Li Qingyi's heart skipped a beat, and he could not help but mutter under his breath, could it be an ancient monster's possession or the reincarnation of a grand master? After all, Lin Bei's actions were entirely contrary to human nature. Thinking along the lines of demonic paths was only logical. Grand Elder Guiyan shook his head immediately. That is absolutely impossible. If one's own Tao remains, why bother with possession? And if one's Tao has perished, how could there be an opportunity to possess another? This is purely innate talent. As these words left his lips, Li Qingyi's heart nearly stopped. It was not possession, nor was it reincarnation. Does that not mean that Lin Bei, relying solely on his mortal body, learned divine arts that others struggle for a lifetime to master just by glancing at them? Even this method of refinement was something he learned and performed on the spot. Just what kind of talent is this? Elder Guiyan clasped his hands behind his back, his expression inscrutable. He spoke with an air of profound mystery. Extraordinary people bring about extraordinary events. There is no need for such astonishment. At that very moment, the core foundation below erupted entirely. The pupils of every elder and legacy disciple present dilated in shock. They had assumed I had committed a grave crime, but the result was far from it. Not only was I unharmed, but I had successfully mastered a refining technique that had previously been deemed impossible. Even the Supreme Elder himself confirmed that I had not been possessed, but was instead a true prodigy, a reversal of fortune so unthinkable that it defied logic. Who among them had ever witnessed such an earth-shattering event? Just as the atmosphere reached a point of extreme tension, Elder Wu of the Discipline Hall hesitantly asked a single question. Dare I ask the Supreme Elder, do we still intend to execute Lin Bei? The moment these words left his lips, the entire assembly fell into a deathly silence. Everyone stared at him as if he were a fool. Their gazes clearly conveyed the sentiment, you are truly courageous. Elder Li Qingyi's face instantly turned as black as a burnt pot, and he roared at Elder Wu on the spot. Hold your tongue. Lin Bei is the supreme prodigy of our sect, the very future of the Tai True sect. When did the Supreme Elder ever suggest he should be killed? Who dares to touch him? Elder Wu was left frozen in place, his expression one of utter bewilderment. He grumbled internally. Was it not you who, just moments ago, were the most adamant about seeing him dead? How can you change your stance faster than turning the pages of a book? At this moment, Elder Guiyan's gaze remained fixed on the scripture pavilion. As these 37 techniques were fully refined, the auspicious signs manifesting around my body reached their absolute peak. A brand new jade slip containing the cultivation technique materialized before me, radiating an aura of terrifying pressure. Elder Guiyan retracted his nonchalant expression, his demeanor becoming more solemn than ever before. His voice, like rolling thunder, echoed across the entire Tai True sect. Outer sect reserve disciple Lin Bei possesses impeccable moral character and unparalleled talent. As of today, he is the first disciple in our sect's million-year history to reach the 9th level of the scripture pavilion. Elder Guiyan's voice boomed like divine lightning, each word striking the assembly with the weight of a mountain. By this decree, Lin Bei's status shall surpass that of the twin saints, placing him above all outer, inner, and legacy disciples. This order shall take effect immediately upon his exit from the secret realm. A thunderous rumble followed. As this final declaration fell, the entire Taigi True sect seemed as if the pause button had been pressed upon it. That lofty saint son stood frozen in place, looking for all the world like a foolish goose. The legacy and inner sect disciples who usually held their heads high in arrogance were left utterly speechless, as if they had seen a ghost. Following a brief moment of silence, the 120,000 outer sect disciples erupted into an uproar. Moments ago, they were casting aspersions and leveling accusations at me, wishing nothing more than to see me suffer. Yet the appearance of the celestial phenomenon delivered a resounding slap to their faces, forcing them to swallow their vile words and leaving them dazed and utterly shaken. Countless disciples beat their chests in remorse, questioning if they truly deserved such a fate. How could they have dared to doubt that Lin Zhuli was fusing 37 heaven-grade high-tier cultivation manuals, a feat never before seen since the dawn of time? Senior brother Lin is truly cunning. This illusory ruse nearly frightened us to death, using the totality of his techniques to facilitate a singular profound breakthrough. The Tai True sect has gained a massive fortune today. Who would have thought the first manual to transcend the heaven grade would emerge from our very own sect? In a heartbeat, their attitudes shifted faster than the turning of a page. My status in their hearts soared in an instant, rebounding with such force that my reputation has reached unparalleled heights. Meanwhile, on the ninth floor of the Scripture Pavilion, I stared intensely at the jade slip hovering before me, my heart pounding wildly. The technique of fusion has succeeded. This masterpiece gathers the quintessence of these 37 heaven-grade high-tier volumes. Its grade no longer falls within the traditional Heaven, Earth, Profound, and Yellow classification. If it were to be given a designation, it would be the heaven-grade peak tier. Although I borrowed the momentum of the system, that only served to increase the probability of success. The one truly in control of the grand outcome was none other than myself. It must be said that the fusion scroll was exceptionally overbearing. At the very moment the technique was cast, the core essence of the 37 manuals felt as though it had been etched into my mind for 10,000 years. Whether benefits or drawbacks, I understood them all with absolute clarity. It was through this sensation that I used my 10,000-fold talent as the flame and the 37 manuals as the firewood to forge a peerless divine technique that had never before existed in this world. This manual purifies the murky and retains the clear, forcibly merging 37 completely different attributes. This was akin to walking on a tightrope. A single lapse in judgment, and the conflicting attributes would have led to a disastrous backlash. Without the protection of the system, even with 10,000 lives, I would not have dared to attempt this, yet fortunately I succeeded. This newly born cultivation manual possesses complete 5 elements and perfect yin-yang harmony, balancing softness and hardness to an unimaginable degree. Yet its very perfection has birthed a great problem. Only a mortal body, which contains the capacity of all rivers and lacks specific traits, can house this peerless divine art. However, the threshold for this manual is absurdly high. Ordinary spirit bodies would be dazed at a single glance, utterly unqualified to practice it. Only I, with a mortal body and heaven-defying comprehension, am the sole candidate capable of wielding it. As the celestial phenomenon dissipated, I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and snatched the jade slip into my palm. With a soft hum, the jade slip erupted in brilliant radiance, a surge of spiritual light rushing straight into the crown of my head. Boom. At this very moment, thunder roared across the sky above the entire Tai True sect, and spiritual energy gathered from the heavens, as if the great Tao itself were wielding a brush to paint across the void, forming 4 powerful, unyielding characters amidst a myriad of manifestations. An image of overwhelming dominance manifested before my eyes. The Wuji Dao Zhang carries the principle of Wuji begets Taiji. This title implies that this technique represents the very pinnacle of the Tao. As I carved this majestic name into the jade slip, the lightning-wreathed jade slip suspended in the sky instantly dissipated, and a peerless heaven-grade technique of boundless myriad phenomena, surpassing all existing laws in the world, known as the Wuji Dao Zhang, was complete. I reached out and took hold of the jade slip. A massive torrent of information flooded directly into my mind without the slightest obstruction. When I fully grasped the contents of the technique, I was momentarily stunned. Even though I created this myself, it possesses no attribute restrictions, no cultivation bottlenecks, and is entirely devoid of supernatural flaws. Looking across the entire Central Province sacred domain, a heaven-defying technique of this caliber is truly one of a kind. The most absurd aspect is the domain of absolute law. Simply by manifesting this domain, one can command reality with a single word. I am the master. The more I studied it, the more exhilarated I became. My eyes burned with intensity, yet reality soon doused me with a bucket of cold water. Though these 3 divine abilities are invincible, the barrier for cultivation is preposterously high. I must wait until I reach the Nirvana realm and possess a sufficiently powerful divine sense to practice them, a mountain of treasure that I cannot yet utilize. I sighed helplessly, assumed a meditative posture, and began cultivating from the most fundamental body-tempering realm. With every breath, spiritual energy began to course through my meridians, causing my bones to rattle and crack, surging with explosive power. Just as I was deeply focused on my cultivation, the Tai True sect fell into an uproar. Although the Grand Elder Qian had departed, his divine sense remained firmly locked onto me. The Elder of the Preaching Peak shook his head in admiration. The name carries great elegance. It is indeed worthy of a divine technique. At this moment, Elder Liu suddenly proposed a startling topic of conversation. Lin Jun possesses heaven-defying talent and is now protected by a divine technique. Tell me, do you believe he can step into the body-tempering realm within 3 days? As soon as these words were spoken, all the elders erupted into a fervor. 3 days? What sort of standard is that? One must realize that in the past 2 million years, those capable of completing body tempering in 5 days can be counted on one hand. As for those who succeeded in 3 days, history only records that one genius of the Great Desolation who once traversed the world. One must understand that the step from mortal to body tempering, while appearing simple, is the ultimate measure of a person's absolute potential based on the time required to complete it. Watching my cultivation posture, Elder Zhuge could not help but remark, in recent years, the best records in our sect belong to the current generation's Holy Son and Holy Daughter, do they not? The preaching elder stroked his beard, nodded, and sighed exactly. The Holy Son took over 8 days, while the Holy Daughter, due to her unique constitution, took exactly 6. Having said this, his gaze shifted toward the Holy Son. Holy Son Yunse, how much time do you think junior brother Lin Bei will require? At this moment, every eye was fixed upon the Holy Son, but Yunze remained in a daze. Only a moment ago, he was reveling in someone else's misfortune, believing that my attempt to fuse cultivation techniques was nothing more than courting death. Who could have foreseen that in the following moment, heavenly phenomena would descend, and the great Tao would resonate? Not only did I not perish, but I also manifested the infinite Tao treasury. I was even personally named by the Supreme Elder to be his direct disciple. This meant that once I emerged from seclusion, my status would instantly tower over all other disciples. Even that saint's son, who held himself above all others, would be forced to bow his head to me. The sheer disparity of falling from the clouds into the mud nearly shattered the saint's son's Tao heart. Confronted by the senior's question, he wore an expression more grotesque than if he had swallowed filth. He endured the silence for a long time before finally forcing out a hollow, courteous response. Junior brother Lin possesses extraordinary talent. I would not dare to make any rash assumptions. However, cultivation places great weight upon comprehension, and the technique he is cultivating is a heaven-grade supreme manual. The complexity of such a technique is not to be underestimated. To fully master it, I fear that doing so in a mere 3 days is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. No sooner had he finished speaking than the elders nodded one after another. After all, innate talent and comprehension are indeed two different matters. Moreover, this infinite Tao treasury is a heaven-grade supreme manual, one of a kind in the world, with no prior experiences or records to consult. How long this process of exploration would take, no one could say. As the protagonist, even I had no way of knowing. With these grandmasters staring intently at me, I remained submerged in my cultivation. Strands of spiritual energy were absorbed into my body one by one, and in accordance with the methods of the infinite Tao treasury, they tempered my physical body and meridians. Once, twice, 3 times, my understanding of this heaven-grade technique soared as if propelled by a tempest. By the 5th cycle of cultivation, I no longer needed to consciously focus on my breathing or the circulation of energy. Time slipped by minute from night until dawn. I did not stop for a single moment throughout the entire night. At the very moment I inhaled the first breath of morning spiritual energy, I stood up. Ding! A crisp system notification suddenly resonated within my mind. Host has reached the body tempering realm. Guidance mission completed. Reward received. A moment after obtaining the minor completion martial skill ticket, the aura within me surged like a river breaching its dikes. My previously frail muscles rippled with power, and my heartbeat thundered like rolling drums. I had succeeded. First level of body tempering. My breakthrough was nothing, but the elders above were driven to the brink of madness. They had witnessed with their own eyes as I started from nothing. Could it really have taken only one night, a mere 6 hours? What kind of speed was this? Even the sect master Li Qingyi felt the corners of his eyes twitch, his entire being plunged into a state of bewilderment. He recalled those years in his youth when he too was a genius, a peak figure of the Central Plains, who would not have feared. Yet back in her day, it took her a full 17 days to complete body refinement. Compared to my 6 hours, she doesn't even measure up to the remainder. At this moment, Sect Master Li's worldview completely collapsed. Fortunately, I was born 3,000 years earlier than him. Had we been born in the same era facing such a monster, my Tao heart would have surely been shattered to dust. At this point, the Holy Sun's state of mind was no longer just collapsed, he had fallen into utter despair. The heaven tier techniques on the 9th floor of the scripture pavilion, the 6-hour body refinement. Each incident felt like a slap to his face. The only shred of dignity he had left was his cultivation. Having practiced for decades longer than me and standing 3 major realms higher, he could only desperately console himself. I have experience. The foundation of martial arts is the most important thing. Down there, without anyone to guide him, he is bound to take unnecessary detours. That's right, as long as he lacks resources, no matter how high Lin Bei's talent is, it will eventually fade into mediocrity. After the initial shock, the elders began to frown. The problem had arrived. Lin Bei had officially embarked on his path, but the entire sect was trapped within the Taiyi true domain, unable to leave. So, who would teach him how to cultivate? Who would provide him with cultivation resources? Without guidance, if they allowed such a peerless genius to grope in the dark and ruin his own foundation, their guilt would be immense. For a moment, the elders looked down at me practicing alone, feeling as anxious as ants on a hot pan. Sect Master Li Qingyi remained silent, unable to speak, and could only pray silently in his heart. Ancestor, please protect him. I hope that Wuji Dao Kang manual is powerful enough so that even without a master, this boy can still achieve something. Yet their worries were entirely unnecessary. At this moment, I felt exhilarated. After cultivating all night, not only did I not feel tired, but my spirit was also remarkably invigorated. I opened my mouth and exhaled a stream of white mist, which shot out 3 feet into the air. Is this truly the feeling of becoming a cultivator? Half a year ago, I was still a good-for-nothing. Now I am finally counted among the transcendent. I intended to head to the martial arts arena to test my strength, but my eyes were drawn to the jade slips hovering around me. I nearly forgot the system had just rewarded me with a minor success martial technique ticket. I am currently lacking a reliable method to defend myself. Standing on the 9th floor of the scripture pavilion, I was overjoyed. I remember back when I was an outer disciple, I was lucky if I could borrow 3 yellow-tier martial arts manuals. Now, although the entire sect has vanished, they have left the entire scripture pavilion to me. I clasped my hands behind my back, walking with an air of complete indifference. I strolled around the 9th floor, looking over the techniques as if I were at the market picking out cabbage. The Taiyi whisk strike is feeble, appearing as if one is merely dusting off an enemy. It lacks the sky-shattering finger, which specializes in piercing through protective chi. Instant death sounds impressive to the ear. but unfortunately it focuses too heavily on mere superficial technique. I will set that aside for now and continue my search as I walk. Upon reaching a corner, my steps suddenly falter. The jade slip before me radiates an aura that is both arrogant and profound. The Five Peaks True Form Fist, a heaven-grade high-tier manual, uses the intent of the fist to summon the soul of the mountains. A single strike descends like a great mountain, crushing all things, yet the most significant detail lies in the footnote. Those without a deep foundation must not cultivate this. If one has not reached 10,000 jin of force at the first level of body tempering, attempting to practice it will result in total ruin. For others, this 10,000 jin threshold is an insurmountable chasm. But for me, it is nothing more than a stepping stone. Arrogant, ruthless, and overbearing, this is the one. I waste no more time. I grab the jade slip and press it against my forehead. With a resounding boom, countless mysteries of the fist technique flood into my mind like a tidal wave. Seconds later, I lower the jade slip, my heart brimming with joy. However, I do not rush to use the martial technique minor achievement voucher just yet. Whether it is the previous fusion voucher or this martial technique voucher, they now require my personal participation to be effective. Having understood this, I turn and step out of the scripture depository, immediately board my flying ship, floor the throttle, and race straight toward the martial arts arena of the transmission peak. While I am humming a joyful tune, the elders watching from the heavens are having a mental collapse. Seeing me choose the Five Peaks True Form Fist, their brows knit together so tightly they could crush a pebble. It is over. Why did this boy choose that cultivation manual? This fist technique has gathered dust in the scripture depository for millions of years. Aside from the 32nd sect leader who possessed the peerless hegemon body, no one has ever successfully mastered it. Furthermore, even that sect leader Song ultimately ruined himself by practicing it. Sect leader Song was once unrivaled in his prime, yet until his death he never brought this technique to perfection. Before he passed, he even lamented that had he not wasted so much time on this fist technique, he would have long since broken through to the spirit-severing realm. The elders are in a state of panic. Foolish, truly foolish. He has only just finished body tempering. He has chosen a Schwan-grade technique for the transition. Does he not understand that biting off more than one can chew leads only to failure? Sect leader Li Qingyi knits her brows tightly as she looks, thinking, I am but a mortal body possessing no special constitution. To have such high expectations and yet choose the hell-grade difficulty of the Five Peaks True Form Fist, this is undoubtedly a path with no way out. At this moment, Lua Liuli can no longer sit still. Her hands hidden within her sleeves tighten into fists, her phoenix eyes filled with concern. Seniors, you have lived for thousands of years with vast knowledge. Is there truly no way to intervene? Even if we cannot penetrate this Tai True domain, couldn't you send a signal to the outside world? A simple warning would be better than just standing here and watching. As soon as she uttered those words, the entire hall fell into a profound silence. The elders were stunned for a moment, but shortly after, a sharp gleam ignited in their eyes. Indeed, was it possible to establish contact with the lower realm? Even if direct intervention was impossible, they at least had to ensure Lin Bei knew the sect had not abandoned him. Suddenly, the usually dignified elders of the Chuangong Peak and Wanshou Peak began racking their brains. Yet, as the person in question, I remained completely oblivious to the fact that a group of powerful figures was anxious on my behalf. At this moment, I was steering my flying vessel, happily gliding toward the base of Chuangong Peak. This was the main headquarters of the Martial Arts Hall. Although the outer sect had its own training grounds, this was the central hub. It was said that every brick here contained divine law imprints, a place where even a powerhouse at the Dingdao realm could not afford to act recklessly. Having been in the sect for half a year, this was my first time visiting such a prestigious location, but I had no leisure to admire the scenery. Leaping down, my flying vessel darted straight toward the body refining examination area. Truly impressive, the ground was littered with massive objects. Stone locks, stone weights, and heavy dumbbells were scattered everywhere. These were no ordinary stones, they were crafted from specialized materials with an astonishing density. My gaze immediately locked onto a massive object, a heavy dumbbell weighing 10,000 catties. I drew a deep breath, stepped forward, and gripped the horizontal bar firmly. Although the Wuji Dao storehouse was powerful, this was 10,000 catties. Surely it would require some effort to lift. With my energy centered in my dantian, I exerted my strength with a sudden burst. The next moment, I was left dumbfounded. The dumbbell in my hand left the ground instantly, and I hoisted it effortlessly above my head with one hand. I truly felt as if I were holding a piece of foam rather than 10,000 catties of cold steel. I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at my own arm, expecting that I would have to grit my teeth and struggle for it. Was this truly the extent of it? Since 10,000 catties felt the slight, I casually set the dumbbell back down. My gaze then shifted toward the other, heavier equipment. Without a word, I reached out and firmly grasped a stone barbell engraved with 13,000 catties, again lifting it with a single hand. It rose as expected. The 13,000 catty stone barbell was hoisted above my head in an instant, yet this was still not my limit. After loosening my limbs, I began to accelerate. The weight increased steadily until it finally halted at the terrifying figure of 18,000 catties, albeit with some difficulty. By now, although the stone weight was held above my head, after just a few seconds, my right arm began to ache uncontrollably. Clearly, my body had reached its threshold of endurance. Nevertheless, this achievement was enough to fill me with wild joy. One must know that in the history of great body cultivators, Those who were renowned for starting their body refining journey only possessed the strength of 10,000 caddies. The Wuji. At the first stage of body refining, a single hand already exerts 18,000 caddies of force. If one were to unleash the full potential of the body, the resulting power would be unimaginable. This is how the script for a transmigrator should unfold. A smirk curled on my lips. Had the entire sect remained intact, they would have certainly granted me the status of a direct disciple. It is a pity that the great tribulation of heaven and earth will descend in 3 years. Now I can only rely on the remaining resources of the sect to struggle for survival. I must live on. With this thought, an intense desire to survive flared in my eyes, and I strode toward the structure in front of the martial arts arena. After a full day and night of high-intensity cultivation, my entire body was on the verge of exhaustion. I had to sleep immediately to restore my physical strength, and upon waking I would master the 5 Peaks True Form Fist. Once I reached the small success stage, I would seek out demon beasts in the Beast Valley to hone my combat skills. Calculating these plans in my mind, I found a bed and collapsed into sleep. Yet, just as I drifted into a deep slumber, the Tai sect was thrown into total chaos. As my series of feats were brought to light, all the inner and outer sect disciples were immediately stirred by the news of those 18,000 caddies. Was it not said that a mortal body possesses no special enhancements? What in the world is happening? This is truly a shocking revelation. Lin Junling is determined to defy the heavens. I had long ago sensed that Lin Junling possessed the qualities to be my mentor. All manner of gasps and exclamations echoed incessantly. If before they were only amazed that I entered the scripture pavilion, now the display of 18,000 caddies of raw force had completely conquered everyone. To progress from a mortal to the body refining stage took only 6 hours. Upon entering the first stage of body refining, he broke every record. This is truly a legend descending upon the world. At the same time, the core circle of the sect was in no better state. The direct disciples, usually so high and mighty, now stood there with their mouths agape. Even many elders stared in wide-eyed disbelief at this unprecedented event in history. In the history of body refining novices, only one achieved a one-handed strength of 15,000 caddies. There have only been 2 peerless prodigies. One was the great Tao seeker of the ancient era who was eventually slain by the ancestor. The other was the Taoist heir of the Jianmu mystical pavilion from Central Province, 530 years ago. Speaking of this, Ziyue's voice rose by an octave. That Taoist heir possessed the primordial star body, and despite being raised on vast resources since childhood, his one-handed strength only reached 16,700 caddies. Yet whether it be that great Tao seeker or that Taoist heir, in the presence of Lin Junling they are all merely juniors. As these words were spoken, a tempest of shock stirred within the hearts of all present. One must understand that these figures were legendary titans throughout the history of cultivation, particularly the Taoist of the ancient Arbor Pavilion, who less than 5 million years ago possessed the primordial star body. Known as a young vicious beast, he had been guided by master teachers from birth and nourished solely on heavenly treasures and earthly spirits. It is even said that on the eve of his body-refining breakthrough, he consumed a priceless sprig of the immortal transmutation pearl. Yet I had entered the sect as a mortal for half a year, and my current progress was entirely self-achieved through the Wuji Dao treasury I had forged myself, a reality that left even the sect master completely stunned. My father recalled his own strength when he was at the first level of body refining years ago. He wanted to die of envy. One could only say that there is no sorrow greater than comparison. Night fell, and I slept in the martial arts arena until the world seemed to spin, but the atmosphere within the Tai True realm began to turn bizarre. The elders, by now, cared little for whether they could escape the realm. They only desired one thing: to establish contact with me. The reason was none other than the 5 Peaks True Form Fist, a heaven-grade, high-tier martial technique. In the past, the 32nd generation sect master, with the cultivation at the divine severing stage, still required 50 years to reach small success. I am currently a mere novice in body refining, with a lifespan not exceeding 80 years. To practice such a technique is a sheer waste of life. They had to prevent Lin Bei from taking a detour, but the problem was the barrier. The laws within the Tai True realm are absurdly powerful, rendering the transmission of spiritual energy impossible. At this moment, Shu Yue furrowed his brows tightly. The elders of the 12 Peaks racked their brains, yet found no solution. This was not merely a spatial separation, but a barrier of laws. It was fundamentally impossible to penetrate. It is a pity that my Tonghua sword was brought in here with me. Luoluli sighed, drawing a long sword with a look of deep frustration. This sword was a life-bound divine weapon she had personally forged and nourished at the Sword Treasury Peak. Had it been left outside, perhaps she could have manipulated it remotely to attract my attention. Unfortunately, through a twist of fate, she had carried it with her, and now she was completely at a loss. Just as despair set in, Qi Leguang, the master of soul-suppressing peak, suddenly eyes lit up and he slapped his thigh hard. Everyone, listening to Senior Sister Luo, I have just thought of a way. His eyes burned as he scanned the crowd. Do you think the puppet beasts left behind in the sect could be controlled? The moment the word puppet was uttered, everyone's breathing stalled for a moment, and the initial silence erupted into chaos. Lu Chengming of the Heavencraft team could not restrain himself and shouted urgently, "Old Qi, enough nonsense! Quickly, see if you can connect with your pile of scrap metal." What do you mean, scrap metal? Qi Leguang, hearing this, immediately bristled. Shu Yue frowned slightly. Senior Brother Changming, why must you insist on exposing Senior Brother Qi's shortcomings? It is enough to know in your heart that it is nothing more than a pile of scrap metal. Why must you insist on saying it aloud? Junior brother Shu, keep your silence as well. Sect Master Li Qingyi had hoped there would be someone sensible among them, but their words only served to stab Qi Leguang once more. How do you lot expect me to speak? Qi Leguang's face darkened. Ignoring the other two, he cupped his hands toward Li Qingyi and said, Senior Sect Master, I shall begin now. Having spoken, he pressed his fingers together and channeled his internal energy. His face instantly paled, and cold sweat poured down like rain, as if he were bearing the weight of 1,000 mountains. After a long moment, he suddenly retracted his divine ability and panted heavily. Luoliuli hurriedly pressed him. How did it go? Blocked by the rules established by the ancestor, my divine sense simply cannot penetrate it. Everyone's heart turned cold, and they were just about to release a sigh of disappointment. Qi Guang then changed his tune, however. A small failed puppet construction unexpectedly established a connection. Even the sect master was stunned by this mention of a failed construction. Qi Guang smiled bitterly. Back when I first learned the art of puppetry, I forged a small Qiongxi beast. Because my technique was too poor, I rendered it a failure and left it to collect dust in the storage room. Who would have imagined that my meticulously crafted, high-grade puppets would all be repelled by the Tai Genshu barrier due to the sheer strength of their required divine sense? On the contrary, this defective item requires almost zero divine sense, and thus it has successfully connected. Sect Master, because this little thing is a failed prototype, it cannot execute spiritual energy techniques, and its range of action is quite limited. Qi Leguang added, feeling somewhat embarrassed. Li Qingyi chuckled upon hearing this and waved his hand. It does not matter. As long as it can be controlled, that is enough. We only need to locate Lin Bei and then have your puppet beast write the full explanation on the ground. Its mission will then be considered complete. Luo Liuli smiled faintly. Junior brother Qi, hurry and control the small beast to find Lin Bei. Once he abandons the Five Peaks True Form Fist, he can transition to practicing this Earth-grade low-rank Tai Pure Light Sword technique of mine, the Master of Kanjian Peak. This peerless Master of the Peak could no longer wait to take on a disciple, but as soon as she finished speaking, the sect master beside her looked displeased. Junior sister Luo, what nonsense are you spouting? Once we have secured Lin Bei, he must surely follow me to learn the heaven-returning medical arts. This is the most essential life-saving divine skill for one at the body-tempering stage. Once mastered, even if only a single breath remains, one can regenerate their entire physical body. Luo Liuli's smile remained gentle, but her tone did not yield. Does the sect master mean to say that this once-in-a-million-year genius should abandon learning how to kill and instead learn how to be beaten? The two confronted each other fiercely, and the scent of gunpowder instantly filled the air. The surrounding elders stood by, eager to watch the chaos unfold. Seeing everyone descending into a quarrel, Qi Leguang wanted to speak several times, but Sect Master, is there any possibility? My good-for-nothing beast cannot even write, can it? As these words left his lips, the entire hall fell into a dead silence. Li Qingyi knitted her brows while Luoliuli was full of confusion. Could it not simply trace a few lines upon the ground? Suddenly all eyes converged upon Qi Leguang. One could see him rubbing his palms in a state of unease. Because I designed its 4 legs as 4 spherical orbs. What do you mean by spherical orbs? The elders tilted their heads in unison, as if a massive question mark had manifested above them. Qi Leguang felt his scalp tingle under their gazes, and gritting his teeth, he suddenly pointed downward. If you all look below, you will understand. Driven by his divine sense, the great gates of the Zhenhun Peak warehouse groaned open. Immediately following this, amidst the astonishment of everyone present, a round metallic lump came rolling out with a rhythmic clatter. When it finally came to a halt under the moonlight, revealing its true form, the very air seemed to freeze. Is this supposed to be a Qiongqi? It was no larger than a palm, its entire body covered in mottled rust like a piece of a low-quality iron toy. Its eyes were 2 rubies and a back hung 2 wings that resembled tattered rags. Most absurd of all, its 4 legs were so short they were nearly invisible, replaced instead by 4 dull gray iron spheres. It was precisely because of this that the creature had been rolling along the entire path since leaving the warehouse. Qi Leguang flushed as he pointed at the creature. Look at it. It can barely move, let alone write to Lin Bei. Li Qingyi was left utterly speechless, supporting her forehead with one hand while Liu Chengming directly mocked the old man. What kind of monstrous thing have you refined? Do you intend to make our enemies die of laughter if you bring this into battle? I already told you it was a failed prototype. Besides, don't you find it somewhat simple-minded and endearing? Qi Leguang remained stubborn, insisting it was still a puppet regardless of its flaws. Even if it is a pile of scrap metal, it is still a creation. Enough, everyone be silent. Li Qingyi cut them off. Her gaze remained fixed on the useless beast as she said in a low voice, the issue at hand, Junior Brother Qi, is how your beast is supposed to meet Lin Bei. Lin Bei is at the martial arts hall of the Transmission Peak, while this pile of scrap is at Zhenhun Peak. They are quite a distance apart. If it relies on those 4 spheres to roll there, I fear it would not reach Lin Bei even in this lifetime. Upon hearing this, Qi Leguang hurriedly explained, Sect Master, although the formation inscriptions have become paralyzed, the wings are still functional. It can fly. It can fly, Li Qingyi's eyes brightened. It is fortunate that this creature's original form is a Qiongqi. Had it been a turtle, today's affair would surely have reached a dead end. You should attempt to manipulate it. If possible, direct it to fly toward the Chuangong Peak. Under the guidance of Qi Leguang's divine sense, the beast clumsily flapped its tattered wings, wobbling as if it might plummet at any moment. The hearts of the elders rose to their throats. This is their only hope. Should it perish before the mission even truly begins, it would be a disaster. If it were to crash and shatter, the consequences would be far beyond a mere joke. As if sensing everyone's anxiety, Qi Leguang hurriedly patted his chest to reassure them. Although this beast was tempered incorrectly, the raw materials are of the highest quality. Its body is forged from luminous meteorite steel, possessing a hardness capable of resisting a death-dealing strike. Hearing this, Lu Chongming raised his head in fury. Is luminous meteorite steel not the main ingredient I used a century ago to forge an Earth-tier divine weapon? No wonder I lost 2 pounds back then, so it was you who stole it. Qi Leguang's expression changed drastically as he stiffened and retorted, I did not. Do not speak nonsense. The piece I used was not yours. Nonsense. In the past 5,000 years, only 20 pounds have appeared in the entire central province, and I purchased them all. Where else could you have possibly sourced yours? Seeing that the two were about to come to blows, the sect master Li Qingyi felt exhausted to the extreme. She directly cast a silent spell upon herself. Closing her eyes to compose her spirit, she thought, do whatever you wish. If the world is to be destroyed, so be it. I am simply too tired. Time slipped away bit by bit until the sun rose high. This sleep had been truly refreshing. After a simple wash, I headed toward the martial arts arena. Shu Tai stretched his body with a long, satisfying movement. Today's plan was quite simple. First, reach the initial stage of mastery in the 5 Peaks True Form Fist. Afterward, I would stroll over to the Myriad Beast Peak, striving to break through to the second layer of body refining as soon as possible. In truth, I also longed to experience the sensation of battling demonic beasts. As an outstanding youth from the 21st century, who wouldn't? Who has not dreamed of roaming the world with a sword, wanting to be like the protagonist in novels who, with a single command of sword, come forth, cause 10,000 enemies to fall? On Earth, that was merely a daydream, but now I have arrived in this world of fantasy. I must, by all means, seize the opportunity to experience the exhilaration of grudges and vengeance. I casually lifted a 10,000-pound boulder on the arena as if it were a mere chick, easily raising it above my head. Truly remarkable. Compared to yesterday, my strength has increased by another level. Is this the sheer terror of the Wuji Dao storehouse? After warming up, I prepared to practice the 5 Peaks True Form Fist on my own without relying on the system to get a feel for the technique. Before I could even strike a pose, my peripheral vision caught a shadow in the sky. Looking closely, I realized it was a round, metallic object wobbling directly toward me. What in the world is that? I watched as the iron sphere hurtled toward my face without a hint of hesitation. Instinctively, I unleashed a powerful kick. What was it that I had just sent flying back? At the same moment within the Taiyi ruins, the very air seemed to freeze. The elders went rigid, their faces twitching as they stared on in stunned silence. They had watched this puppet beast travel through the night, struggling to reach the training peak, only for it to be kicked away before it could even reveal itself to me. The sect leader, consumed by panic, roared, quickly order it to return. You must intercept Lin Bei before he continues his practice. Qi Leguang, teeth gritted and drenched in cold sweat, pushed his consciousness to the limit. The connection to this scrap metal was already fragile, and he feared any further exertion would shatter it entirely, yet he desperately clung to that faint link to force the beast to turn back. Meanwhile, standing on the martial arts arena, I rubbed my chin bewildered, suspecting that the object I had kicked was a metal puppet. Recalling the giant mechanical bird I saw when I first entered the sect, a theory formed in my mind. Could this thing be like me, unable to keep pace with the rest of the group? Did it get lost while the sect was evacuating and stumble upon me seeking warmth? Just as I pondered this, a rhythmic clattering sound echoed from the stairs. The object I had kicked away had stubbornly returned. It wobbled forward, its body shaped in a truly peculiar fashion. It rolled and tumbled all the way up the path. Finally, with a loud thud, it crashed into my calf. The impact sent it flipping onto its back, all 4 legs pointing toward the sky. I watched as those pitifully short limbs flailed aimlessly in the air. Its tail, looking much like a tattered broom, slapped incessantly against the ground. I blinked, utterly dumbfounded. Surely not, my friend. Why have you returned? Gazing at the idiotic-looking metal creature, it was clear its intelligence was severely lacking, and I fell into deep thought. What exactly is the origin of this little thing? If it was left behind, then what? Are there others besides this one? Does it possess any sentience? Thinking this, I did not hesitate. I reached out and snatched it. Lifting its round body, I held it directly before my eyes. Listen, little one, I said, tapping my finger against its metal head with a stern expression. You came looking for me. Is there a purpose behind it? Do you know what has actually transpired within the sect? Can you understand the words I am speaking? Simultaneously, inside the Taiyi ruins, witnessing this scene, the elders nearly jumped out of their skin in agitation. The sect leader grabbed Qi Leguang's arm, shouting, quickly, command the puppet to respond. I am trying, he replied. Qi Leguang fumbled to form the hand seals, but the more anxious he became, the more erratic the spiritual. Seeing that the small beast ahead showed no reaction, my brow slowly furrowed. Luo Liuli, could you not just hurriedly stomp your foot and nod? Is that so difficult? These 3 questions of mine, Lin Bei, only require a simple nod to answer. Perfectly feasible. Even if this puppet is flawed, surely it can manage a nod. Qi Leguang's face was filled with bitterness. I wished to do so as well, but forcing it to fly throughout the night caused the formation runes within its body to lose their stability. The energy has finally been exhausted, so many of the commands are intermittent. This is originally a defective item, a failed lenger. Being able to control it now is already an unexpected blessing. Manipulating it to move is already a stroke of luck. As for subtle, detailed actions like nodding, such an order is truly making things difficult for others. Besides, it is not as if it cannot do anything at all. Just a moment ago Although the command to nod has lost its effectiveness, shaking its head is still possible. As these words were spoken, everyone stood there stunned. Nodding is impossible, but shaking the head is possible. What kind of logic is this? Seeing that I was growing impatient below, just as I was about to set the small beast back down on the ground, the sect master hurriedly spoke, "We cannot worry about such trifles anymore. If it can only shake its head, then let it shake its head, make it do so quickly. It is better than no reaction at all." "Sect master, you must not." The elders were terrified. "One must realize that if it shakes its head to the 3 questions I just asked, the misunderstanding will become a grave matter." Just as the elders prepared to intervene, Lua Liuli explained, "The sect master is right. If it cannot nod, then let it shake its head. Because the urgent matter at hand is to let Lin Bei know that this small beast possesses intelligence, not that it is an ordinary puppet. As long as he is willing to keep the beast by his side, there will be an opportunity to explain the truth to Lin Bei later." Upon hearing this, the elders instantly understood, and Qi Guang ceased his idle talk, once again channeling his divine sense to transmit the command. On the martial arts arena, I was preparing to discard this heap of scrap metal. Suddenly, the object in my hand stirred, and I saw the opponent slowly shaking its small metallic head. I froze on the spot, my face etched with disbelief. Can you truly understand human speech? This world is truly mystical. It is merely a puppet, yet it possesses the capacity for simple comprehension, much like an intelligent machine. However, this shaking of its head caused my heart to sink slightly. It seems my assessment was correct. The small beast is indeed a castaway, and seeking me out now must be because it sees that I am a disciple. The sect assumes that by following by my side it will have a place to rely on. We are both wanderers in this world, and after all, besides myself, there is nothing living left in this entire sect. Keeping a block of iron as a companion is not a bad idea. Reflecting on this, I sighed. Very well, if you insist on following me, you may stay. However, I am about to begin my cultivation, so stay back to avoid being accidentally harmed. Within the Tai Genju, the elders all breathed a sigh of relief. It stayed. As long as it wasn't kicked away, there was still hope. But what should they do next? The little Kyongchi could neither speak nor write, so how could it warn Lin Bei to stop practicing the Five Mountains' true form fist? Just then, Zhu Gaming, the master of Tianji Peak, stepped forward and spoke clearly. "Junior brother Qi, you can control the little beast by manipulating its movement trajectory on the ground. Use its entire body to trace out the information we wish to convey. If it runs the pattern a few times, given Lin Bei's innate intelligence, he will certainly be able to decipher it." As soon as the strategy was proposed, Qi Guang did not hesitate. He immediately took control. Just as I had assumed a recovery stance and had not yet caught my breath, I saw the little puppet, which had just settled down, suddenly begin to dart around frantically as if possessed. Watching its spherical limbs slide across the ground and its body sway left and right left me completely bewildered. The elders in the Tai Genju widened their eyes in shock. Lu Chengming immediately snapped, "Old Qi, what on earth are you doing? Do you call this writing? This looks more like you're drawing a cursed talisman." Upon hearing Lu Chengming's rebuke, Qi Guang retorted, "If you are so capable, then you go ahead and control the little Kangqi. It can barely stand, yet you expect it to be precise. To write so many characters with a creature like this, I have already done the best I could." Li Qingyi hurriedly intervened to mediate. "Junior brother Qi, you are trying to write too many characters. Simplify it to just 4. Do not continue practicing." "Understood." Qi Guang immediately executed the command. Before me, I watched the little creature twitching on the ground, but the more I observed, the more my expression shifted. No, its movement trajectory seemed to follow a pattern. Could it be that you are writing? Is this puppet truly this intelligent? A little beast that appeared completely ordinary was actually capable of imitating human writing. But what exactly was it trying to say? I stood there, unable to stop myself from observing it closely. At this moment, the hearts of the elders in the sky were hanging, suspended by a thread. This boy has seen through it. Lin Bei is indeed a child of profound talent and wisdom. Since he has deduced that the beast is writing, he will surely be able to read and understand the message. "Junior brother Qi, the performance is up to you now. Do not let your divine sense waver." Under immense pressure, Qi Guang pushed his control to the limit. The skeletal frame moved frantically, carving desperate strokes into the earth. The 2 characters for "do not" were reduced to the most extreme simplified strokes. Suddenly, my eyes lit up as I stood on the martial arts field. I understood. Though it looked like mere chicken scratches, the strokes were deliberate. On the martial arts field, I tilted my head, squinting at the little Kyongchi's movements, my eyes gradually brightening with realization. It is actually writing. Although the strokes are crooked, it is clearly conveying something to me. It seems there is the character for desire. As I deciphered the character desire within the Tai Genshu, a surge of excitement erupted. He had correctly identified a character. Heavens, Lin Bei's natural talent is truly terrifying. The elders were moved to tears as if they had glimpsed the light of victory. Down at the martial arts arena, Tang sat hunched over, his brow tightly locked as he stared at the chaotic scribbles. The first character looks like desire, but what about the mess behind it? What could this be? It looks like the character for inspect. No, that's not right. It resembles Link or Refine. I examined it repeatedly, and then, relying on my formidable cognitive ability, I suddenly affirmed, I understand. This is specifically reminding me of something. Since I have arrived at this place, I must refine my skills and absolutely must not slack off, correct? As soon as these words left my lips, the little mist beast, which had been drawing circles on the ground, suddenly froze. Or rather, everyone within the Taigenju fell into a dead silence. Within the Taigenju, the sect master's smile stiffened on his face, Luo Liuli's beautiful eyes widened, and giant question marks appeared over everyone's heads. Zhuge Ming's face was a mask of disbelief. How could he have identified desire but failed to see the massive do not character placed right at the beginning? Furthermore, there were clearly only 4 characters. How could he possibly interpret that as a sentence of over a dozen words? Junior Brother Qi, what kind of work are you doing? Lin Bei is so intelligent. This must be because Junior Brother Qi failed to guide him properly. Faced with the criticisms of the others, Qi Leguang's face was filled with grievance. I am wronged, everyone. I truly tried my absolute best. As for why Lin Bei interpreted it as a dozen words, it was because the initial intention was to write a long sentence, but then it was suddenly interrupted, and the character do not became even more faint. And now it has simply vanished. Upon hearing this explanation, the elder's faces darkened. The sect master felt his head spinning with agony. It is over. This is the legendary case of good intentions ruining everything. And what is even more terrifying is that I have already assumed a meditative posture below. Today, no matter what, I must successfully master the 5 Peaks True Form Manual. I looked at the little mist beast by my feet and casually gave it a fitting name, Tai Tai. Hearing this, the elders completely collapsed. Qi Leguang frantically transmitted his divine sense to the little beast, urging it to shake its head and warn me. But seeing this, I merely smiled. Very well, very well. I know you are monitoring me, afraid that I will be lazy, right? Rest assured, I am a man who listens to reason. I shall begin my training now. The elders were left in a daze. Who dares to touch him? Seriously, who's stopping him from slacking off? Stop with the headcanon, y'all. Without hesitation, I immediately strike a pose in my mind, recalling the method of the Wu Yan Xingquan. This time, I'm not using the minor mastery skill card. I want to see what kind of effect I can achieve, relying on my insane 10,000-fold amplified talent, even if I just grind it out myself. In a split second, my body moves, and the fist opens like a dragon, immense aura instantly enveloping me. At the same time, inside the secret realm, they see our boy officially start leveling up like crazy. The sect's heart, which was hanging by a thread, finally cools down completely. It's over, we're doomed. A once-in-a-million-year genius of the sect is still going to be wasted. This high-grade Tien-level martial skill, you gotta know that without 20 to 30 years of hard training, you can't even dream of reaching minor mastery. Once you get on this path, you'll waste years for nothing. And unless they can immediately break open the secret realm and stop him. But that's clearly a pipe dream. Look, Lin Bei has already finished a round of punches. Someone suddenly exclaimed. I just see below that this absolute unit is practicing. He is shrouded by the fist and is emitting an formidable aura. The elders watched in shock and pain. Truly a once-in-a-million-year talent. What a waste. Even with such high talent, this fist technique requires decades of grinding. Sooner or later, Lin Bei's path will be misguided. Inside the vast Tai illusion realm, as the sounds from my training grow louder and louder, the attention of countless disciples is drawn here. News spreads like wildfire throughout the entire area. That's a puppet beast refined by Elder Qi when he was young. The latest inside scoop is that Elder Qi is remotely controlling it, trying to remind Lin Bei to absolutely not practice that Tien-level martial skill. So that's it, the elders are really putting in painstaking effort. Forgive me for being ignorant, but is this fist technique really that difficult? Why don't the elders want him to practice it? I told you to read more books, but you just wanted to raise pigs. This fist technique is the signature move of the 32nd sect leader Song Tianxing. Back then, sect leader Song relied on his unparalleled overlord physique and cultivated this fist technique to great mastery. It's a pity that sect leader Song ultimately wanted to cultivate this fist technique to perfection. Otherwise, with his aptitude, who knows, he might have been able to break through to the god realm. That's why the elders don't want Lin Bei to get involved with this fist technique. So that's it. In that case, isn't Lin Bei wasting his life practicing this fist technique right now? Along with the discussion of the numerous disciples, my practice of this fist technique is becoming serious and is gradually becoming known to everyone. Inside the secret realm, everyone's stressing about Lin Bei's fist-pumping obsession. Even the outer sect elders and deacons are watching this unfold. They're all internally weeping. A top-tier genius is taking a detour because of sect drama. Anyone got any bright ideas, bros? Sect leader Li Qingyi asks, heavy with worry. But this time, everyone's out of options, just shaking their heads in defeat. Little did I know what was popping off outside. After throwing that first punch, I'm already locked into round 2, completely lost in the sauce. Oh, it's so over. This clown is seriously trying to master the 5 Mountains True Form Fist. He's got it all backwards, ignoring the limitless Tao repository for some dead-end technique. The peak lords and elders are watching me seriously grind, round after round, and their hope is officially gone. Meanwhile, Holy Child Joy Yunzi is thrilled that I'm ditching the god-tier cultivation manual for some trash skill. Greedy and stupid, does he seriously think he's a reincarnated god or something? What's the point of mastering the form without the levels to back it up? In his eyes, I'm trading a whole buffet for a single crumb. While I waste 20-30 years burning my lifespan, he'll be leveling up to realms I can only dream of. Who's the sect gonna back then, this trash or a legendary prodigy like him? Zhuo Yunze, arms crossed, watches me sweat bullets, thinking keep training a million times over. Don't stop. But right as he's having his villainous monologue moment, the sky is doing some funky stuff. An elder speaks up confused, wait, is it just me or is Lin Bei's fist power getting stronger? Everyone's stunned by this. Transmission peak Lord Shu Yue instantly zooms in for a closer look. This old dude's been teaching disciples for a millennium, so he immediately notices and his pupils shrink, eyes wide with disbelief. Hold up, how is Lin Bei's fist power rising so fast? It's like one punch is worth 10,000 for him. What in the actual F? The other elders are now looking too, whispering, what the... Such rapid growth? I've never seen anything like it in my 4,000 plus years. Compared to his first attempt, Lin Bei is practically a different person. There's no way he could learn that much in a few hours. Could the kid also be a martial arts prodigy or something? Sect leader Li Qingyi is also speechless. He's been the most worried this whole time. He really doesn't want to see this genius waste his potential taking the scenic route. Lin Bei's 3-hour progress is better than some people's 3-year grind. Is that even possible? Do y'all think there's even a sliver of a chance? Is Lin Bei actually the reincarnation of Headmaster Song? Hearing that, Shu Yue's eyes nearly popped out. Bro, what kind of crack are you smoking? Even if a strong cultivator reincarnates, the body needs time to adapt, right? Meanwhile, in the secret realm are boys sweating buckets. The reason for his rapid progress? A that minor mastery skill ticket. Truth be told, even with his talent, he felt the difficulty after just the first practice. Reaching minor mastery with his mortal body would take at least 10 years. So naturally, he turned on the hacks. That's why from the second practice onwards, he entered a ridiculously OP state. His understanding of the Five Mountains' true form fist's essence is skyrocketing like a rocket. His body is constantly being forged in this multiplied buff, overcoming every difficulty in the fist technique. Time slowly passes as he gets closer and closer to minor mastery, and his aura is completely different now. At this moment, inside the entire secret realm, all the disciples are stunned. They went from worried and regretful to dumbfounded and shocked, their emotions riding a roller coaster. What in the world is going on? Is Lin Zunzi about to master the Five Mountains' true form fist? Not just master it, he's about to reach minor mastery. Look at the fist shadows around Lin Junzi combined with his posture. Doesn't the form faintly resemble a mountain range? That's definitely the symbol of the Five Mountains' true form fist at minor mastery. So Lin Junzi used only one day to cultivate a heaven-tier high-grade martial skill to minor mastery. The disciples are completely flabbergasted. Among them, the disciple who claimed the Five Mountains' true form fist was hard to learn almost had his eyeballs pop out. My fellow disciples, I swear I wasn't trying to fool you. The records in the scripture pavilion do say the Five Mountains' true form fist is the most difficult martial skill in the entire sect. What's happening now? Your big bro is just as confused. He looks down and sees the mountain-like fist shadows getting stronger and stronger, and he doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lin Junzi, I'm begging you, stop showing off your god. My one-day grind to master a 10-grade martial skill instantly shook the entire sect till they were bug-eyed. 10,000 disciples just stood there, jaws dropped, refusing to believe their eyes. The deeper my understanding of the fist technique got, the more realistic the mountain landscapes within the fist shadows became, until they were crystal clear. It literally materialized right before their eyes. Inside the Taichu void, gasps of shock echoed nonstop. The elders were tripping out like they witnessed a divine miracle, their emotions running wild. Even the teaching peak Lord Shu Yue was scratching his head, muttering about how it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Shu Yue, who spent half his life teaching disciples, was completely dumbfounded by my skills, lost and confused. He's starting to doubt his own judgment. The holy child was totally stunned on the spot, his face filled with disbelief, blinking and rubbing his eyes like crazy, hoping that all of this was just a hallucination. On the practice field, the final form of my fist technique was finally complete. The aura suddenly collapsed, then instantly exploded throughout my body. Like my tendons and bones were resonating, creating a roar like a dragon's cry. After a few breaths, I stilled my fist, standing firm as the swirling wind around me condensed. I exhaled a breath of stale air, lightning flashing in my eyes, feeling the surging power in my body. The Five Mountains' true form fist is finally done. Raising my head to look at the dark sky, I realized it's been exactly 4 hours since I started cultivating this morning thanks to the system. When it said mastered in one day, it wasn't kidding. The joints and bones popping like firecrackers, sending ripples of air throughout my whole body. A 10-grade martial skill is like alchemy, forging my body into an indestructible divine weapon. Just as I was basking in the excitement, a sudden hunger struck me with full force, so intense that it forced me to immediately discard all other thoughts and just want to eat. Ever since I disappeared from the sect, I've been living in a world-ending crisis, so busy I couldn't even breathe. Looks like I definitely need to fill my stomach. Without hesitation, I hopped on my flying shuttle and headed straight for 10,000 Beasts Peak. Behind me, that round puppet flapped its ragged little wings with all its might, struggling to keep up. Seeing that it was about to be left far behind, I hesitated for a few seconds, then decisively turned back, grabbed it, stuffed it into my chest, and spun around, turning into a streak of light disappearing into the night, cutting through layers of clouds. Before long, I arrived. At the entrance to the Good Deeds Hall of the 10,000 Beast Peak, I entered the hall, pushing through the crowd, heading straight for the advanced formation cooking area deep inside. Now that my value has skyrocketed and my financial resources are strong, I don't even bother looking at the prices. I slammed my disciple token down hard. The stone tablet in front of me started taking orders, and before long, 130,000 contribution points were wiped out in a flash. The formation immediately activated, and chunks of demonic beast meat flew out of the storage, floating in the middle of the formation. Spiritual light flashed in the void, precisely cutting these chunks of meat into pieces of the right size. Immediately afterwards, they were roasted by the erupting true fire. In less than half an hour, 16 delicious dishes were brought to the table. Just as Lin Bei arrived at 10,000 Beasts Peak to eat his fill, up in the sect, even Tai Genju is paying attention. Bro really mastered the 5 Peaks True Form Fist in a day? Imagine what Headmaster Song would think if he saw this madness. Wait, Lin Bei actually came to Myriad Beast Peak? First time for everything, I guess. This Myriad Beast Peak cafeteria is straight up luxurious, though. The entire secret realm is buzzing. Watching this mukbang stream got everyone feeling hungry AF. I can't take it anymore. Anyone got food? I'll trade 100 contribution points. Someone finally cracked and yelled, but nobody's really offering. Because when you enter Tai Genshu, you only get a day, so nobody really preps food. Soon the lower-level elders of each peak noticed the problem and reported it up. The news quickly reached Headmaster Li Qingyi, and she also realized the disciples' food situation. These peak lords are basically gods. They're above worrying about little things like food. Hearing the report, she quickly took out her storage ring, flicked her finger, and a beam of light flew out, turning into all kinds of food in midair. Following that, the other elders also took out their emergency rations, especially Peak Lord Zhongding of Myriad Beasts Peak, who contributed the most. With a wave of his hand, he took out spirit rice and beast meat and combined them, enough to feed his disciples for years. Li Qingyi's face turned serious. The disciples aren't starving anymore, sure, but 3 days have passed, and the Supreme Elders haven't made a peep. This isn't good. Seems like Tai Genju really has a major problem. If we're stuck here for 3 to 5 years, the consequences will be disastrous. Gotta find a way to contact Lin Bei. If we can use him to find the spare jade token, escaping this place will be much easier. Li Qingyi sighed and turned her gaze towards yours truly, only to see that I'd already polished off more than half of the 16 dishes. But I still look like I'm craving more. I stood up and looked around the cafeteria. Suddenly Zhongding followed my gaze and froze, his face changing drastically. Crap, he's gonna raid my stash. I have a top-quality cloud dream carp that I haven't cooked yet. If he sees it... Zhongding paced anxiously, secretly praying in his heart. Please don't let him see it. Please don't let him see it. The Myriad Beast Peak cafeteria, I feel like my body has turned into a bottomless pit, greedily craving food. At this moment, I can clearly feel the spiritual power in my body soaring, blood surging, and my tendons and bones cooperating with the domineering digestion method of the boundless Tao repository. My realm is advancing by leaps and bounds, faintly touching the threshold of breaking through to the second level of body tempering. However, I'm specifically holding back, not rushing to break through. Cultivating in the body tempering realm isn't just about simple advancement. It's about letting the physical body reach a resonance limit before breaking through. If I break through right now, the power of one arm would only increase to 25,000 Jin at most. But if I can refine my flesh to its limit before reaching the threshold, then breaking through at that time will definitely allow me to unleash a terrifying force of 30,000 Jin. I'm still hungry, just one more meal and I can definitely reach that perfect threshold. So next up, I gotta chow down. Using a cultivation manual to fully convert the meat of high-grade demonic beasts into power is the only way to maximize the benefits. Just then, a clear mechanical voice suddenly echoed in my head. System notification detected O's intense desire for high-quality eats. Activating supplementary guiding quest. Complete one instance of cooking and enjoying high-grade demonic beast meat with full flavor, aroma, and presentation. Quest reward. Gourmet Godtongue Purple Tier. Swallowing demonic beast meat will triple the digestive effect of your body refinement technique. Hearing the system's prompt, I was instantly hyped. This time, it's a purple tier reward, tripling the effect. Doesn't this mean that I can cultivate 3 times faster than others just by eating? But this quest is indeed very tricky, because the so-called high grade doesn't look at strength but at bloodline. The stuff I just ate was expensive, but the bloodline was only slightly stronger than a normal wild beast. As I was thinking about where to find this top-tier ingredient without realizing it, I was already standing in front of the grand entrance to the Good Deeds Hall's warehouse. Seeing the scene before my eyes lit up instantly. Top-tier ingredients are definitely hidden deep inside the warehouse. The moment I pushed open the door and stepped inside, I was stunned by the sight before me. Amazingly, all the demonic beast meat was categorized by attribute. Some were sealed in hambing formations, others were kept warm in raging fire formations. My eyes immediately swept across all the items and stopped in midair, where an irregular block of water was floating, and a large snow-white fish was living inside it. It's alive. I suppressed my racing heartbeat and immediately asked in my mind, System, does this fish meet the criteria for a high-grade demonic beast? Confirmed, this is a Yunmeng Li possessing a rank 7 demonic beast bloodline. Hearing the words rank 7, I almost laughed out loud. You must know that rank 9 is a divine beast, so this rank 7 bloodline. Now that all the sect members have disappeared, To not seize this opportunity right in front of me would be defying the heavens. Without a second thought, I snatched that massive fish. The very instant my fingertips grazed the fish. Inside the tight illusionary void, a heart-wrenching scream echoed through the skies. Not my fish. Zhongting's eyes were glued to Yunmeng Li's movements, a burning intensity within. This is the despair of having your most cherished possession stolen. That mournful shriek suddenly made all the disciples in Tai simultaneously look up. The voice, it sounded like Elder Zhong from the Myriad Beast's Peak. It seems that fish was Elder Zhong's pride and joy. Just what kind of fish is that anyway? That's a Yunmeng Li, possessing a supreme grade stage 7 bloodline. It's a dish that Elder Zhong went out to bring back 3 months ago. One knowledgeable disciple explained, immediately causing an uproar. A stage 7 demonic beast, you say? Which is a particularly unique existence even among stage 7 demonic beasts. Every inch of its flesh contains a massive amount of heaven and earth essence, capable of transforming and renewing cultivators below the Nirvana realm. Who would have thought the Yunmeng Li that Elder Zhong spent so much effort to obtain would end up benefiting Lin Shunshu? That same time, within the central core, many Pikemasters and elders facepalmed in unison. Ziwei patted Zhongting's shoulder, consoling his junior brother. It's just a fish. At most, you can just go catch another one. Like that's gonna happen. Zhongting forcefully shrugged off his senior brother's hand, trembling with rage. This Yunmeng Li is extinct throughout Central Continent. Only that 6 paths, reincarnation old devil from the Fan sect, has 1 male and 1 female. In order to obtain this young one, I not only exhausted my entire fortune, but also had to beg that old devil. Fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, I almost lost my life at 6 Paths Mountain. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire scene went deathly silent, everyone giving Zhongting sympathetic looks. Junior brother, don't risk your life like that again next time. Li Qingyi looked worried. Sect leader is worrying too much. Even if I can't beat that reincarnation old devil, he shouldn't even dream of touching me. Moreover, as long as eldest sister is here, their 6 paths and Fan sect are destined to be nothing but grasshoppers that can't hop much. At this moment, hearing Zhongting's proud words, Luoliuli only smiled gently. Junior brother, your Yunmeng Li seems to be about to kick the bucket. Zhongting's expression changed, and he immediately looked down. At this moment, I was carrying the fish as tall as me into a formation. Welp, so much for Xiaosong. Should have just snagged the prize before the saintess finished her glow-up. Hesitation is defeat, y'all. This fish was supposed to be a power-up for the saint child and saintess to reach Nirvana realm. Sayunza, our boy, failed once already, and Zhang Qinghan is still in her room cooking. This fish is packed with heaven and earth essence, a clutch item in the middle of a snowstorm, but who knew it'd end up buffing some random chi-refining scrub like me? What tilts Zhongding the most is that he saved some for himself and now has to watch a premium ingredient go down the hatch. For him, this is worse than getting ganked. This fish ain't bad. Wonder where the Wanshou Peak Lord found it? I can't wait to chow down, so I immediately carried this big thing to the Good Deeds Hall kitchen to get started, then drop Yun mainly onto the ground. The fish is still flailing around, so just be a good boy for daddy. Without another word, I raised my hand and gave it a heavy palm. The rage in its eyes instantly faded. Let me think for a sec. I got an idea. Meat this fresh has to be grilled. Inside the Taiyi Zhenshu, hearing that I'm gonna grill it, made Zhongding break down instantly. What a waste of resources, a damn waste. A fresh and sweet Yun Mengli like this is perfect for steaming or braising in soy sauce. Why grill it? Watching my actions made Zhongding almost have a stroke. Junior brother, calm down. The fish is already on the chopping block. Lin Bei can eat it however he wants. The peak lords and elders tried to talk him down, but Zhongding couldn't hear them. How can I not care? There's a whole art to eating. The way of food is a top-tier grand Tao. You can't just rush it. Everyone was stunned by this. They remembered their thick junior brother had an epiphany on the Tao of food. Meanwhile, I had no idea about any of this. All I cared about was getting fed. Not enough spices. Guess I'll use wine. I shook my head and found a big jar. Carved a few patterns on the fish and stuffed this several hundred-pound beast into it. My smooth moves left all the big shots in the sky dumbfounded. What is he doing? Is he trying to get rid of the fishy smell? Zhongding frowned, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Like these granddaddy cultivators usually just eat air or swallow pills, right? The most they'd eat of mortal food is some deer, maybe grilled. But they've never seen a flavor bomb operation like this before. I'm about to drop 5,000 years of Earth's culinary civilization on these memphers. Alright, preheating is done. I'm setting up a huge flat wok, pouring in the secret ingredient spices and stir-frying until fragrant. After that, I'm taking the big fish, crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, and flipping it into the sizzling red oil. The fish skin's golden brown with red peppers and green herbs sprinkled around. Red oil bubbles are popping everywhere. That instant, an unprecedented aroma blasts out. The entire Tai realm is instantly captured. Someone couldn't hold it in and swallowed first. And then the sound of gulping echoed all around. Holy sh, this is still a competition, right? Lin Shun actually has this move up his sleeve. Bro's on another level. The disciples trapped in the secret realm for days have gone full-on hungry eyes mode. Even the usually aloof elders and sect leaders are having some serious throat acrobatics. Millennia of eating air and today they're salivating over a grilled fish? Guess their cultivation isn't up to par, lol. Li Qingyi sighed internally, but the strongest reaction came from Zhang Ding. Right now, the old man's eyes are glowing, staring at my every move like he's witnessing a divine ritual. He's having a spiritual epiphany. For the first time in his life, he knows food can be this good. I messed up the order a bit, steaming and stewing for the week. Only grilling is the true Tao. This man's future is totally hanging on me. In this moment, Zhang Ding's worldview shatters. Food is the greatest Tao. And what he used to flex in front of me is nothing more than a frog in a well. Bro wasted millennia eating trash. This fish is just too damn good. Zhang Ding literally wants to smash the barrier and charge in to steal my food. But I'm outside the barrier, completely oblivious to their collapse. I pick up a piece of fluffy spirit rice with my chopsticks and pair it with some crispy yet tender fish, pure bliss. Over half an hour passes and I've wiped the whole fish clean. Just then, Peak Lord Shuyue of the Transmission Peak suddenly shouts an alarm. Oh no! Lin Bei's getting a spiritual infusion, releasing immortal light. As soon as those words were uttered, everyone looked down at once, seeing me radiating a red glow all over with hot steam hissing from my skin. You see, this was the Yunmeng Li Shidai that Zhong Ding prepared to entertain 3 or 4 sons and saintesses, but it all ended up in my stomach. Even with my godly cultivation technique, I'm having a bit of trouble digesting all this. Suppressing the burning sensation, I rushed towards the martial arts field of the Wanshou Peak. Absorbing too much spirit energy, the excess energy is leaking out. I feel like I'm about to explode. According to the body tempering method from the Limitless Tao, I must immediately convert this energy into power. No waste allowed, or else I'll suffer the consequences. So after arriving at the martial arts field, I frantically started throwing out the 5 Mountains True Form Fist. After 4 or 5 rounds, still feeling unsatisfied, I rushed towards the equipment area, picked up the weight kettlebells, and started waving them around like a maniac. A muffled sound suddenly echoed within my body, as if some barrier was violently shattered. In an instant, the raging heat vanished without a trace, and the steam emitting from my body completely disappeared. My mind suddenly cleared. I clenched my fist to feel that unprecedented power surging within. Breakthrough. Body tempering stage 2. This demonic beast meat is straight up a divine elixir. I immediately went to the 30,000 Jin stone lever and suddenly unleashed my power. The heavy stone lever was lifted in an unbelievable manner. I lifted it with one hand, but this isn't even my limit. I continued to add weight until the test concluded. Looking at the final number, even I was stunned. 33,000 Jin of strength with one hand. Normal cultivators only barely achieve such strength at body tempering stage 7 or 8. Congratulations, host, for completing the guidance mission, receiving the talent reward Jidiaone Jin Qiyang. The system's voice echoed in my head, but I was too exhausted to even move. My bones crackled all over, and after the extreme pleasure came a wave of sleepiness like a rising tide. Full from eating and drinking, and with a breakthrough in my cultivation, I needed a nap to recover my spirit and energy. Too lazy to find a place, I laid down in the DAP position right there on the martial arts field. Taking the sky as my blanket and the earth as my mat, wave after wave, snores echoed through the quiet mountain peak. At the same time, inside the Tai True Void, a silence fell. Numerous peak lords and elders looked at each other in shock. Body tempering stage 2 with 33,000 Jin of strength with one hand. Is this even a mortal body? Even the legendary King Physique or Tyrant Physique specializing in physical strength wouldn't be this strong at this stage. You gotta know that at body tempering stages 3, 6, 9 strength doubles, this kid's starting point is already this high. If it doubles or triples again, what then? The question is before everyone. What should Lin Bei cultivate next? Let's be real. The body tempering stage has a bunch of support methods to beef up your physical body, and without a good master, you're basically winging it. Our boy Lin Bei thinks he can just eat demon beast meat with some busted bloodline and become ripped? That's straight up impossible, my guy. He needs to find another body tempering technique ASAP. Better hit up that Qi Lei Guang shitty of his. Li Qingyi sighs, glancing over at Qi Lei Guang beside her. Sect leader, I'm trying here. But this little Qiangqi is a broken puppet after all. We should give it some more time. Time slowly passes. Finally, the sun's up high and I feel like I've been sleeping under a rock. Groggily opening my eyes, I'm greeted by a tiny head covered in rust. 2 ruby red eyes are staring right at me. Is that you? Tai, I yawn, then lift this little guy who's been stepping on my chest and put him on the ground. A good night's sleep helps my body and meridian bones recover big time. Time for a simple 9-dish and a soup breakfast at the dining hall. After breakfast, I leave brimming with confidence. As I walk, observing, I finally find the perfect valley for me at the foot of Wanshou deep in the mountains. Li Fenggu. The demon beasts inside aren't that strong, but there are plenty of demon beasts with good bloodlines. Ding. Host has arrived at Li Fenggu. Defeat any demon beast. Reward, gold tier Do Zhan Xuan Xin. My steps falter and my heart skips a beat. A gold tier, and one that can infinitely improve fighting intelligence? Do Zhan Xuan Xin? No cap. I was already planning to level up by farming mobs here, and this quest is basically freebies. While I'm happily checking out the system rewards, I totally miss the movement in the bushes by the roadside. A streak of emerald green shoots straight towards me like an arrow from a bow. The danger's coming too fast. I don't even have time to react. Instinctively, I lean back to dodge. That green streak slams into the big rock behind me. With a loud bang, the hard rock instantly shatters into pieces. That shows how tough this demon beast's body is. If this attack had landed, even the elite disciples of the sect would have suffered severe consequences. But at this point, I'm not scared at all. My eyes are burning with hype. My fighting spirit is raging. Good bloodline, eat this fist of mine. Initiating the Wu Yue Zhen Xingquan, I advance instead of retreating, charging straight forward. At the same time, inside the Taiyi Zhenshu, the atmosphere explodes completely. All the disciples watching the live stream and the elders are instantly hyped to the max. This is a once-in-a-lifetime battle for a true genius. So this Ji Jiao dude is like a once-in-a-millennium prodigy. Everyone wants to see if he's the real deal or just another piece of trash. This Lin Bei guy knows how to pick a stage, gotta give him that. The demonic beasts in Lifeng Valley are notoriously savage. Yep, that's a tier 3 bloodlion-tailed green snake. Its tail scales pack a punch equivalent to a peak body tempering stage 5 attack. I remember seeing that snake at the valley entrance 9 years ago when I first joined the sect. Didn't think it'd still be kicking. Surviving for 9 years in Lifeng Valley? This snake's got some serious plot armor. The eagle-eyed elite disciples sucked in a breath of cold air, immediately recognizing the origins of the giant turquoise snake at the bottom of the valley. While the other 100+ disciples are gossiping, I just unleashed the 5 Mountains True Form Fist. I held nothing back on this punch. One hand alone already packs 33,000 kilograms of force. And now with the buff from a heaven-grade upper-rank cultivation technique, that power skyrockets. Boom, rumble. The fist wind howls like a giant mountain crashing down. The iron-tailed green snake is stunned, coiling its thick body and slowly raising its snake head, blankly waiting for this punch to arrive. Next thing you know, my fist slams into that giant snake head. No fancy moves, just pure aesthetic violence. A visible shockwave erupts, blowing up the iron-tailed green snake, an equivalent to a body-tempering stage 5 cultivator instantly killed. Inside the Tai True Void, it instantly explodes. Countless disciples widen their eyes, looking at this scene in disbelief. That was a tier 3 bloodline beast, equivalent to body-tempering stage 5, and it just died like that? Linsley is only at body tempering stage 3, but he's already this strong? Truly worthy of being called a once-in-a-millennium genius. While the disciples are hyping him up, Transmission Peak Master Shuei also nods secretly. For his first real battle, he can be so decisive, truly rare. You should know that many people have extremely high cultivation qualifications, but actual combat is not their strength. Daring to swing his fist at a demonic beast is a sign of courage. This courage in future battles will evolve into a kind of faith called invincibility. Only with an invincible mind can you have an invincible fist. In Shu Yue's eyes, I have stepped out. The first step on the road to becoming a powerhouse. Congratulations to the host for completing the guidance mission and receiving the reward, the profound gold sand talent. The reward has arrived, but I don't feel much because this gold sand is too mysterious. I'm afraid it can only be shown in actual combat. A moment later, after adjusting my state, I continue to go deeper into the valley. This time, any demonic beast I encounter on the road, I can quickly resolve. Throughout the journey, the Battle Profound Heart also began to function. Its effect causes my understanding of combat to advance by leaps and bounds. An hour, the mighty river splits Lifeng Valley in two. The strongest demonic beasts in the first half only have 3rd-grade bloodlines. But the latter half of this valley has never been set foot in. My keen senses allow me to vaguely sense its presence within. This suits me whether it's verifying the Dojan Xuanxin or cultivating the Wuji Daozang. I need high-intensity blood battles. Without hesitation, I leaped up and directly crossed the Great River, entering the restricted area in the latter half. Inside the secret realm, many disciples were dumbfounded. No way, is he just getting further away the more he fights?
I finished a hurried lunch and steered the flying ship back toward Baifeng. This time, I did not head to the medicine garden, but went straight to the pill pavilion. My intention was to procure medicinal elixirs to fuel my body refining technique and force a breakthrough to the 6th level of the body refining realm. Meanwhile, within the Taiyi True Void, all the elders and peak masters were clapping in excitement. Lin Bei has finally seen the light. I told you, he should have been consuming pills to cultivate long ago. Old Xiao, hurry up and bring out your prized medicinal elixirs for us to see. Hearing the many martial brothers speak up, Xiaojia smiled and replied, "It is nothing. Am I really such a stingy person? Are medicinal pills not meant to be consumed? Entering the stomach of our sect's young genius is the true fulfillment of their purpose." The gathered elders wore strange expressions upon hearing this, for they all remembered who it was that had begged for a pill from him years ago. He had caused quite an uproar over a single 8th-grade heavenly pill. At the mention of Liangyi Peak, Xiaojia's expression shifted, and a flicker of embarrassment appeared in his eyes. Back then, when the Saint Sun was at the 8th level of body refining, he had requested an 8th-grade heavenly pill that Xiaojia had just refined. Xiaojia had suffered 4 furnace explosions while refining that specific pill, wasting a vast amount of rare and precious materials. When it was finally perfected, the Saint Sun had requested it for himself. In a fit of temper, Xiaojia had rushed directly to Liangyi Peak, where the sect master resided, to lodge a formal complaint. Now that this piece of history was being recounted in front of everyone, Xiaojia flushed bright red. The Saint Sun is after all the Saint Sun, he stammered. He is an exceptional talent with the authority to utilize all resources within the sect. Furthermore, my refinement techniques have since reached a state of deep mastery. Naturally, I no longer feel the same reluctance toward an 8th-grade heavenly pill as I did back then. These words caused the others to nod slightly, but only the Saint Sun, Zhuo Yun, could be seen twitching at the corner of his mouth. What is the meaning of this? We are both geniuses of the sect. Years ago, I requested one 8th grade heavenly pill, and you made sure the entire sect knew about it. Now that Lin Bei enters your pill pavilion, you are suddenly generous enough to let him consume whatever he pleases. For some reason, the saint's son felt a stinging sensation in his nose. At this moment, Xu Yuwei interjected with a question. Junior brother Xiao, what if it were a 9th grade saint pill? This? Xiao Jia was stunned. Caught off guard by Xu Yuwei's question, he immediately reverted to the hesitant demeanor he had displayed years ago. Look at him. The moment he encounters a difficult question, he falls silent again. Xu Yuwei added fuel to the fire from the sidelines. Enough. Sect Master Li Qingyi glanced at the two bickering men, unable to stop himself from intervening, then turned his gaze toward Qi Leguang. Junior brother Qi used the small beast to guide Lin Bei and help him collect the medicinal pills. Time was of the essence. Qi Leguang nodded in agreement. Below, I stepped into the main entrance of the pill hall. Suddenly, the system's notification chimed in my mind. Host detected at the pill hall. Limited time check-in mission activated. Reach the top floor of the pill hall within 3 minutes. Reward: 1 formation breaking talisman. Another check-in mission. I raised an eyebrow, unable to suppress the spark of delight in my eyes. Check-in missions are the most straightforward of all system tasks. Not only is the difficulty low, but the rewards are also substantial. Therefore, I did not hesitate for a moment, immediately accelerating and sprinting toward the top level of the structure. With my cultivation at the 5th level of body refining, my movements blurred into nothing more than a faint afterimage. Xiao Gongqi struggled to keep up behind me, its small tattered wings flapping until they were nearly exhausted. High above, Qi Leguang was drenched in cold sweat. Strange, the way Lin Bei is navigating, it is as if he knows exactly where junior brother Xiao's medicinal pills are kept. While they were still pondering, I had successfully reached the summit, completed the check-in mission, and received the reward. As the system's notification chime faded, a strangely shaped talisman materialized within my system storage. However, I paid no mind to it at that moment. I stood at the top of the stairs, staring ahead with my mouth agape. At this moment, I finally understood why the system had rewarded me with a formation-breaking talisman. I saw that the vast 9th floor before me was completely enveloped by a restrictive formation. Currents of violet light interwoven with one another completely barred my path forward. As my gaze pierced through the shimmering barrier, I could clearly see various medicinal pills of all shapes and sizes hovering in the air. Each one exuded an incredibly rich and potent medicinal fragrance, especially the ones at the very summit. Those few pills hung there like monarchs, suppressing the aura of all the others beneath them. A quality of this level could only be the legendary 9th grade saint pills. My pupils constricted. Activating my innate sword heart talent, I immediately discerned the grade of the pills hovering at the highest point. Could this many 9th grade saint pills really be left here like this? I couldn't help but swallow hard. Previously, I had assumed that I would at most scavenge a few leftovers. After all, what family would move house without taking their most valuable possessions? Yet unexpectedly, they had truly left them behind, failing to pack away even these 9th grade saint pills. What kind of situation could have possibly transpired here? Or perhaps they had never withdrawn of their own accord. They had simply vanished against their will. My mind was in complete turmoil. The more I thought about it, the more terrifying the truth seemed. Yet I quickly shook my head. Why dwell on such matters? This world only had 3 years left before its destruction. My highest priority was to cultivate as quickly as possible and survive. The moment that thought settled in my mind, I immediately used the formation-breaking talisman I had just received as a reward. In an instant, the radiance of the formation before me completely dissipated. I smiled in satisfaction and strode directly inside. At the same time, within the void of a secret realm, Xiaojia's expression froze. His eyes widened in disbelief. What was going on? The formation had vanished. Didn't that mean all of those medicinal pills could truly be taken by me at will? Beside him, Xu Yuwei burst into laughter. Junior brother Xiao, the formation has lost its power. Do your previous words still stand? If Lin Bei ends up consuming your 9th grade saint pill, don't start crying afterward. Those words were like a dagger driven straight into Xiaojia's heart. His face flushed crimson. After a long pause, he finally forced out a sentence. Oh, of course I keep my word. It's only a dragon elephant tempering bone pill, so what if he eats it? Haha, then let me congratulate you in advance, junior brother Xiao. Your pill refining materials are truly being put to their best use. Li Qingyi rubbed her forehead helplessly from the side. This junior brother Xu was truly devious. The other elders quietly moved a little farther away from Xu Yuwei as well. At this moment, I was already walking through the tower. It did not take long before I found the 9th grade saint pill, the dragon elephant tempering bone pill. It was actually a medicinal pill specifically meant for body tempering. The moment I stood beneath it, the pill, shaped like a dragon and an elephant, automatically descended into my palm. A stream of information instantly flooded into my sea of consciousness. This pill contained a trace of an ancient dragon elephant soul sealed within it. After consuming it, the density of one's bones would increase 100-fold, the meridians would expand like mighty rivers, and one's vitality and blood essence would become as powerful as that of a young dragon. I was extremely satisfied. Just as I was about to swallow it and begin cultivating, the system's voice suddenly echoed in my mind once again. Ding, detected that the host is surrounded by countless medicinal pills. Special 100 refinement alchemy grants an infinite level up limit. Your 100th attempt is guaranteed to succeed. What? My entire body trembled, and as I slowly lowered the elixir in my hand, I wondered, is this golden tier keyword not far too heaven-defying? The 100th attempt is a guaranteed success. The room for manipulation here is outrageously vast. My heart rate accelerated instantly as a daring idea took root in my mind. If I use first-grade elixirs to refine 99 times, and wait until the 100th attempt to switch to a pinnacle tier recipe, then does that not mean I could refine even the legendary 10th grade divine elixirs? Heavens, the true value of this keyword is simply incalculable. One must know that in this world, for millions of years, no one has been able to refine a 10th grade divine elixir. I had originally intended to consume this 9th grade saint elixir to break through directly to the 6th level of body tempering, but now I must consider this carefully. After all, I have read in similar texts that one can only consume a single type of body tempering elixir during the body tempering stage. A 9th grade saint elixir is certainly not bad, but what is it compared to the foundation created by a 10th grade divine elixir? I took a deep breath, suppressing the restlessness in my heart. All I need now is to obtain a 10th grade recipe and the necessary ingredients. With the 100 refinement alchemy keyword, the probability of success is no longer a concern. I rubbed my chin and turned to head downstairs. What is truly difficult are the 10th grade recipes and ingredients. But regarding this, I am brimming with confidence. Or rather, I have faith in the Taiyi True Sect. Divine elixirs have vanished from the world simply because they are too difficult to refine, not because the formulas do not exist. Therefore, the Taiyi True Sect must certainly have a stockpile of 10th grade recipes within their tens of millions of years of heritage. I began searching from the top floor to the bottom, turning every corner of the alchemy pavilion upside down. This scene left the elders watching from the secret realm completely stunned. What is Lin Bei doing? Why has he descended the stairs instead of consuming the elixir? Splendid. Is he trying to tear Junior Brother Xiao's house apart? Junior Brother Xiao, what kind of treasure are you hiding, exactly? The elders, unable to understand my actions, could only tease Xiaojia. Xiaojia himself wore a face full of confusion. Earlier, when he saw me pick up the dragon elephant bone tempering elixir, his heart had leaped into his throat. Even though he could not use the elixir himself, and it would eventually be mine, it was still a 9th grade saint elixir, one that would cause a sensation across the world if put up for auction. Thus on one hand, he put on a tough front, claiming he wished to gift it to her, while on the other he was genuinely terrified that I might actually take it. As it turned out, in a twist none could have foreseen, I took the pill. I examined it for a moment, placed it back, and turned to head downstairs to search for other items. Xiaojia was left completely bewildered, yet he felt a secret sigh of relief in his heart. Since you chose not to consume it yourself, it is not as if I refused to give it to you. Just as a smile began to form on his face, Lu Chengming nudged him suddenly from the side. Old Xiao Lin Bei has stopped. It seems he has found something. What is kept in that room? Xiaojia squinted, then replied, that is where the pill formulas are stored. Why would he go there? As he spoke, Xiaojia's eyes suddenly widened, his face filled with suspicion. Meanwhile, I was standing within a hidden chamber on the 3rd floor of the pill pavilion. Found it. I took a deep breath as thousands of jade slips rose from the table before me. These were all the pill formulas of the 7th grade and above, accumulated over tens of millions of years by the Taiyi sect. Among them, 29 golden jade slips stood out prominently, radiating a brilliant luster. Truly, the Taiyi sect has never been lacking in divine pill recipes. I rapidly scanned through all the golden jade slips, my gaze finally locking on to 3 10th grade pill formulas for the body refining stage. The Chaos Undying Body Origin Pill. I gripped the golden jade slip tightly, my eyes gleaming. This was far too smooth. To think there truly existed a 10th grade pill perfectly suited for body refining cultivation. This pill requires Chaos Origin Qi, Primordial Sacred Spring, Undying Essence, Golden Bone, and 6 other divine materials of heaven and earth as ingredients, followed by 9 cycles of refining over 10 days and 10 nights to successfully form the pill. As for the efficacy of the pill, it could only be described as terrifying. It guarantees that anyone who consumes it will possess a supreme foundation. Once this pill is ingested, at the 9th level of the body refining stage, one's strength will reach a minimum of 1.6 million jin. If I were to diligently practice body refining techniques myself, this figure would only be higher. However, this is not even the most heaven-defying aspect of it. The most heaven-defying property is that it allows me to perform infinite body refinement from this day forward. Infinite body refinement. On the path of cultivation ahead, every time I achieve a breakthrough, my physical form will receive an augmentation just as it does now. This is truly terrifying. One must understand that in the path of cultivation, every realm has its own unique focus. After the body refining stage, strengthening the physical vessel is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Yet this Chaos Undying Body Origin Pill can make the breakthrough effects of the body refining stage last for eternity. Regardless of the realm one breakthroughs into, both the soul and physical strength increase simultaneously, granting unprecedented growth potential. According to records, this pill was highly sought after in the primordial era. Unfortunately, the ingredients became nearly impossible to gather, and it eventually vanished. The last person to consume this medicinal pill lived 89 million years ago. He was the founder of our sect, Taiyi Daozun, who relied on this divine pill to forge an peerless foundation that reached the zenith, ultimately establishing the Taiyi True Sect, a power that shook the entire world. Since then, the formula remained in the pill hall for tens of millions of years, and the Taiyi True sect had even seen the emergence of god-tier alchemists. It is a pity that none of them could successfully refine it. Even for a god-tier alchemist, the success rate for refining a 10th grade medicinal pill is never 100%. Furthermore, because the ingredients are so scarce, one often only has a single chance. If one fails, all hope for that lifetime is lost. Yet for me, the success rate is not a problem at all. Now I must determine if the sect possesses all the necessary ingredients. I rubbed my chin and headed straight for the 5th floor of the pill hall. This place is a vast treasury housing rare alchemical ingredients: primordial holy blood, undying golden bone, Xuanhuang mother chi, and nirvana 9-turn grass. These were all in stock, but among the countless ingredients, the chaos origin chi was the rarest. I searched for a long time, finally locating it in a corner of the warehouse. Seeing a strand the size of a thumb, I was finally able to put my mind at ease. I had gathered 5 out of the 6 required ingredients. Only the final one remained, the True Dragon's reverse scale. This item is the most vital part of the primordial True Dragon, a divine beast. An adult primordial True Dragon is an existence invincible under the heavens. Who could possibly obtain its reverse scale? I was growing anxious. At that moment, a bolt of lightning flashed above the warehouse. I looked up, and the images from the ancient records in my mind instantly flickered into focus. Could this be the True Dragon's reverse scale? Excellent. It really is here. My eyes widened. The Taiyi True sect is truly formidable to have acquired a divine artifact of this magnitude. Immediately thereafter, my thoughts drifted toward the forbidden grounds of the sect. I passed by the Zhanlong cliff days ago. Could the records inscribed on the stone tablet be true? Did the Taiyi Taoist Lord truly slay a true dragon at that very location? If not, from where would he have obtained the inverted dragon scale? Taiyi Taoist Lord, your power was indeed peerless. I could not help but offer a thumb of approval, moved for the first time by the sheer weight of this forefather's legacy. Just as I was verifying the materials within the Taiyi True Void, the elders stood completely stunned. What on earth is Lin Bei doing? First he scavenged all the pill formulas, and now he has run to the storage warehouse. Is he intending to refine pills? Sectmaster Li Qingyi turned toward Xiaojia and asked directly, Junior brother Xiao, do you recognize that pill formula? Xiaojia immediately gathered his focus, bowed and replied, reporting to the Sectmaster, based on the ingredients he has gathered, it can be surmised that the formula is for the chaotic imperishable body origin pill. This elixir is a 10th grade divine pill intended for the body tempering stage. As his words fell, every elder present wore a look of bewilderment, their hearts churning like a tempestuous sea. Is Lin Bei actually searching for the ingredients to a 10th grade divine pill? What is his intention? Could he be planning to refine it himself? One must realize that a pill of this grade has not graced this world for millions of years. This is not only due to the immense difficulty of the refinement process, or the scarcity of the ingredients. More importantly, there is usually only a single chance to succeed. The probability of success is infinitely close to 0. For this very reason, the 10th grade divine pill has been extinct for an aeon, leaving the 9th grade saint pill as the pinnacle of the world. Yet Lin Bei is now disregarding the readily available dragon elephant bone tempering pill, and instead he is obsessively fixated on a 10th grade formula destined for failure. In the eyes of all the elders, my actions were nothing short of utter foolishness. However, while they were in the midst of their deliberations, I ran directly to the Pill Palace's study to leaf through books on alchemy. Quick! Look. He has started reading. Everyone turned to look, and indeed, I was sitting cross-legged amidst the bookshelves, calmly flipping through an introductory guide to alchemy. This scene felt hauntingly familiar. The eyelids of several peak masters and elders twitched. In an instant, they recalled my behavior at the herb garden several days ago. Was that not also a process of starting from nothing? At that time, everyone believed I was merely acting recklessly. Yet, I ended up mastering it on my own, creating the brilliant and peerless Primordial Tao Ascension Sutra. And now I am replicating that same process once more, matching even the speed at which I turn the pages. However, composing a medicinal formula and operating an alchemy furnace are of entirely different magnitudes. The path of alchemy is a true great Tao. Mastering it is 10 times more difficult than merely researching medicinal formulas. One must remember that the master of the medicine garden, Sun Kaiyuan, is merely a deputy peak master, while the naturally gifted 9th grade alchemist, Xiaojia, is the true peak master. Thus, my attempt to take a shortcut through the alchemy path is destined to fail. Sect leader Li Qingyi watched my focused study and shook his head slightly, but this time, rather than dismissing me outright, he turned to Xiaojia. Junior brother Xiao, you are the expert. Do you believe Lin Bei is capable of successfully refining this? Xiaojia instinctively started to shake his head, but he suddenly recalled Sun Kaiyuan's humiliating defeat, and his movements froze instantly. No, I must not repeat his mistakes. Thinking this, Xiaojia's gaze turned firm, and he chose to place his faith in the words of the Supreme Elder. A remarkable man is capable of remarkable feats. Thus, under the incredulous stares of everyone present, he nodded calmly, relying on his 3,000 years of professional alchemy experience, as he watched Lin Bei, whose alchemy furnace had been triggered 1,000 times, attempt to refine a 10th grade divine elixir, seemingly with the greatest of ease. This is no mere pill formula. This is clearly a saint-grade formula. Xu Yuwei paced back and forth in a state of panic. Over the past few days, they had desperately tried to control the puppets, and the spirit beasts attempted to contact me, yet every effort met with failure. I remained completely immersed in my studies, leaving the elders frantic and helpless, eventually forced to let me do as I pleased. After all, how could the path of alchemy be so simple? In this vast world, there are countless spirit herbs. Merely grasping their age and maturity is enough to stump 90% of people. Everyone remained convinced that I would achieve nothing. Little did they expect that while I failed to create a body-tempering formula, I had instead produced a top-tier masterpiece. If they allowed me to continue this chaos, I would surely bring ruin upon myself. Future generations, looking back at the sect's history, would certainly mock this self-proclaimed genius. This generation of sect leaders and elders would likely be nailed to the pillar of shame. And so, the moment I inscribed this pill formula, the entire sect was thrown into a state of panic. Sun Kaiyuan was so furious that he stomped his feet, abandoning the top-tier 9-turn Golden Dragon Ascension Pill Furnace, choosing instead to interfere in my work himself. To think he would pride himself on creating such a harmful method. This cannot stand. He must be stopped immediately. Sectmaster Li Qingyi issued a stern command. Lin Bei was the sect's only hope for the future. There could not be even the slightest error on his path of cultivation. At this moment, Luo Liuli could no longer remain calm. Junior brother Qi, regardless of the cost, you must stop Lin Bei from causing further trouble. Her fiery gaze locked onto Qi Leiguang, causing him to shiver instinctively. Qi Leiguang hurriedly gave his assurance. Senior Sister's Sectmaster, I will do my utmost to oversee his training. As Lin Bei's control over the puppets and the small beast grew increasingly proficient, he focused his concentration and unleashed the secret technique once more. Inside the Baifeng Grand Hall, the fierce little Qiangqi suddenly stood upright. Its ruby eyes flashed with sudden intelligence. It looked up at me, its round body nudging against my leg. Behave, you little brute, go play somewhere else. I was completely preoccupied with the formula and had no time to spare for it. I took the pill recipe and walked straight out the door. The elder's expressions darkened instantly, an invisible pressure like a mountain weighing down upon Qi Leiguang. Qi Leiguang gritted his teeth, intensifying his control. The small Qianqi flapped its wings, hovering around me, desperately trying to capture my attention. Unfortunately, my mind was entirely occupied by the formula. I remained completely oblivious to the creature's persistent behavior. The Lihua vermilion fruit must not be 5 years old. That is too potent. A 1-year-old specimen is sufficient. Yet in this medicinal garden, the Lihua vermilion fruits are pitifully scarce. The margin for error left to me is truly narrow. While lost in calculation, I arrived beneath the Lihuo tree. Turning around, I saw the small Qiangqi still tailing me, wagging its tail. What kind of strange creature is this? A sense of pity could not help but well up within me. Seeing how familiar this little fellow is with the medicinal garden, it must share a deep bond with one of the elders. Is it worried that I reached out to stroke that metallic head of its. Taking something without asking is equivalent to theft, is it not? But what of it? Now there are only the two of us left in the entire sect. This herb has effectively become an object without an owner. As the sole remaining disciple of the Tai True sect, how could it be considered stealing to claim it for my own use? As these words left my lips, the little metallic beast was momentarily stunned, its head ceasing its incessant shaking. At this moment, the upper echelons of the Tai True sect were collectively speechless. Who would bother to care whether you are stealing or not? Have you truly not considered the possibility that the formula you devised yourself is flawed? Lin Xuan, why is he so incredibly confident when he is clearly so unremarkable? He would rather suspect the little beast of stealing his medicinal broth than admit there are errors in the formula he crafted himself. One must realize he has only been studying the path of alchemy for a mere 3 days. The inner sect disciples were collectively at a loss for words. My blind confidence had rendered the entire sect stunned. Everyone watched as I plucked the Lihua Ju fruit, specifically choosing those that were small and unripe. This scene left the disciples even more speechless. Anyone could tell at a glance that these fruits were not yet mature. After 3 days of study, does he not even know how to gauge their age? It is baffling. With such powerful cultivation talent, why is he so obsessed with these trivialities? If he truly brings disaster upon himself, it would be a record of sorts. A new record for the body refining of a heaven-sent prodigy, the disciples whispered among themselves. Some were worried, some mocked, and others were simply helpless. I refused to focus on my cultivation, insisting instead on creating my own formula. In the eyes of everyone, this behavior was nothing short of extreme foolishness, and much of the reputation I had accumulated over time vanished in an instant. Look quickly, Lin Xuan has already collected nearly all the ingredients for the formula. Does he actually intend to jump in and soak? How marvelous. Over 100,000 members of our entire sect are gathered to watch a once-in-a-millennium prodigy walk the path of self-destruction. At this, the core elders had completely lost their composure. Seeing me carry over a great cauldron and recklessly toss in medicinal herbs, their hearts trembled. Should we simply stand by and watch a peerless genius go astray? The little metallic beast beside me warned repeatedly, but I remained oblivious, entirely immersed in my own world. So be it. Life and death are determined by fate. Li Qingyi was so enraged that her chest heaved. She let out a long, weary sigh and closed her eyes, unable to bear watching any further. Luo Liuli clenched her fists, unable to believe that someone as supremely intelligent as me could commit such a foolish mistake. It is happening again, another spectacular display of self-sabotage. Xiaojia pointed downwards, his small heart pounding against his ribs. Ever since I made my appearance, I have been nothing but a source of chaos, yet I have always managed to turn danger into fortune. it is enough to shatter his Dao heart. Seeing me stir up trouble again, and insisting on bathing in the cauldron, he refused to believe I could pull off another miracle. At that same moment, atop Baifeng Peak, inside a massive golden cauldron, I cast in 3 naturally fire vermilion fruit, 9 drops of myriad-year profound underworld true water, and a freshly molted golden victorious celestial silkworm carcass, finally refining them into a steaming pot of medicinal soup. Under the intense flames, the soup bubbled and churned. I had been brewing this medicinal concoction for an entire day and night. By the break of the following dawn, as the first rays of sunlight descended, I, the master of Beifeng, suddenly opened my eyes and flung a strangely shaped piece of withered wood into the cauldron. This was the catalyst, the formless dry branch. Once combined with the vermilion fruit and the purple spirit fungus, it would unleash a mystical power. Feeling an overwhelming and profound aura piercing through the horizon, the domain merged into the medicinal soup, and a brilliant light flickered in my eyes. With a loud splash, I leapt into the cauldron. The vast, pure medicinal energy flooded my pores, permeating every limb and bone, nourishing my meridians. It was searingly hot, unbearably itchy. The intensity of this meridian-tempering medicinal liquid was far greater than I had anticipated. I furrowed my brow, gasping for air the moment I submerged myself. My body began to undergo a violent transformation, as if 10,000 ants were frantically crawling beneath my skin. Suppressing the urge to claw at my own flesh, I focused my mind and steadied my spirit. If my concentration wavered and I leapt out now, all my previous efforts would be in vain. I was slowly absorbing the primordial violet chi infused within the soup. Once I left the cauldron and lost the protection of the medicinal liquid, this violet energy would instantly dissipate. Therefore, no matter the cost, I had to persist until the very end. Even as I endured the agony of 10,000 ants gnawing at my bones, I absolutely could not move a single inch. I fought to shift my focus, calming my heart and spirit, until the maddening discomfort gradually began to fade. My physical form, meridians, and foundation were undergoing an earth-shattering metamorphosis. I would not perish. At that same moment, there was a commotion outside. Within Taiyi Zhenju, over 100,000 inner and outer sect disciples were collectively shocked. They had all been prepared to watch my physical body melt away, expecting me to die a wretched death in that medicinal cauldron, yet the blood-curdling scene they imagined did not come to pass. Not only was I sitting unscathed within the medicinal soup, but my body appeared to be growing stronger with every passing moment. What on earth is going on here? Did Elder Sun not claim this was a lethal poison? Every disciple stood frozen, caught between confusion and utter shock. On the other side, within the high-ranking circle of the sect, the various peak masters stared intensely at Lin Bei. Lin Bei has not died. Elder Sun, what is the meaning of this? Could that medicinal liquid truly possess the properties to temper the meridians? Questions rang out one after another, pinning the weight of the situation directly onto Sun Kaiyuan. Sun Kaiyuan was drenched in cold sweat, his pupils constricted, an expression of profound disbelief etched across his face. He could not understand how, given this formula, he could still be standing there, alive and well. Live fire vermilion fruit, profound nether true water, earth-fine purple spirit mushroom, and the formless root. That is it is the formless root. Sun Kaiyuan's mind raced at lightning speed, until a spark of realization flashed within him. I understand now, the key lies in that formless root. Sun Kaiyuan began to explain with fervent excitement. Lin Bei used the formless root as a catalyst, strictly controlling the age and dosage of the medicinal herbs and spiritual ingredients, ultimately creating a marvelous equilibrium. Splendid, this is truly brilliant. The more he spoke, the more exhilarated he became, eventually even gesturing wildly with his hands. The elders nearby exchanged glances. Although they only understood a fraction of his explanation, they grasped the gravity of what had occurred. But how did he manage it? This defies all logic. Everyone knows I am merely a reserve outer disciple, possessing no fundamental knowledge of the medicinal arts. Could it be that through a mere 3 days of self-study he has already elevated his mastery of alchemy to the realm of perfection? Even Sectmaster Li Qingyi felt her throat go dry. What manner of monster is this Lin Bei? First he spent a single day mastering a heaven-rank martial technique, and now he has produced a top-tier body-tempering formula in just 3 days. If one had not witnessed these events with their own eyes, who would dare believe them? Wait, I see spiritual energy gathering into a phoenix shape above his head, accompanied by swirling, mystical heat. What is the meaning of this? Sun Kaiyuan seemed to have discovered something incomprehensible, staring fixedly at me, his eyes filled with doubt. The grand primordial violet chi. As the silence deepened, a voice. Sun Kaiyuan was stunned, his head lifting instinctively. Before him stood the towering figure of Supreme Elder Jiyan. The elder had appeared once more, yet he carried no aura whatsoever, like a common mortal standing amidst a crowd. Lin Bei added an ingredient to this medicinal broth that you all failed to perceive. A wisp of primordial violet chi, captured at the very moment the sun crested the horizon. As these words left his lips, the entire assembly was struck with shock. Li Qingyi was filled with astonishment. Could the primordial violet chi truly be gathered by human effort? It is possible, Jiyan affirmed, then lifted his gaze to peer into the distance. That single glance seemed to pierce through layers of the void, looking toward the 9 heavens beyond the Taiyi true void. Those who reach the Saint King realm can indeed command the foundations of heaven and earth for their own purposes. Pausing there, Jiyan continued, but how Lin Bei achieved this, even I do not know. A Saint King can command the fundamental primordial violet chi of heaven and earth. This news was so earth-shattering that many elders and disciples were left dumbfounded, as this was a feat reserved only for those at the Saint King level. For Lin Bei, only at the third layer of body tempering, to have achieved such a thing is unbelievable. To have utilized a formless root to guide a wisp of primordial violet qi at this very hour. Sun Kaiyuan Xiaojia and those versed in pharmacology were all cast into deep contemplation. Sun Kaiyuan pressed his dry lips together, his heart churning with violent waves. To use medicinal herbs with conflicting properties as the foundation, utilizing physical catalysts to support them, and ultimately not only achieving a perfect fusion of medicinal power, which should have naturally devolved into a chaotic mess, but also casually introducing a third catalyst, the primordial violet qi. Truth be told, Sun Kaiyuan and Fang Yayu had spent their entire lives never imagining that one could use a wisp of heaven and earth's essence as a primary ingredient. And most importantly, the person who drafted this world-shaking prescription is merely a novice on the path of alchemy. Yet he is a man of such peerless, brilliant talent. With the top-tier formula he produced 3 days ago, the elder had even criticized it as a death trap prescription. Thinking of this, Sun Kaiyuan felt an indescribable, burning heat rise to his face. I have studied this path for 1,000 years, yet I am not even equal to one who has studied for 3 days. He offered a bitter laugh, stunned and momentarily lost, his Tao heart wavering. Junior brother Sun, there is no need to belittle yourself. Li Qingyi caught sight of his state, and could not help but sigh. As I have said before, extraordinary people have extraordinary fates. Lin Bei is a heaven-sent genius seen once in a million years for our sect, so it is no surprise that any impossibility might manifest upon him. Hearing the sect master's words of comfort, Sun Kaiyuan felt a measure of relief. Xiaojia touched his nose on the side, seemingly recalling that when Lin Bei first wrote out the formula, the sect master himself had not believed he would succeed either. Now he was trying to curry favor, but Lin Bei was truly extraordinary. As for alchemy, he might even be a master of the craft. I must absolutely ensure I do not treat him with any disrespect from here on out. Let the elder be the only one to suffer the humiliation of being proven wrong. Xiaojia silently reminded himself. An extraordinary person will always have extraordinary deeds. Whether he taught himself in 3 days or created the pill formula from scratch, I only need to act as if I have always been certain of his success. Once Lin Bei refines a supreme-grade medicinal pill, the entire sect will surely hold me in high regard for my foresight. I am truly clever. Lin Bei had used so many heavenly treasures for the recipe and even channeled the primordial Hongmeng purple qi as the foundation. It is unknown to what level his strength will reach after this medicinal bath meant to temper his body and warm his meridians. The elders discussed among themselves, their hearts filled with curiosity and anticipation. After Ji Yan stepped forward to explain the situation, he did not linger, transforming into a streak of firelight as he returned deep into the Tai True Void. As the pressure from the Supreme Elder lifted, the inner and true disciples felt relieved, followed immediately by waves of shock and commotion. The long-suppressed curiosity finally exploded. The medicinal bath formula was no fabrication, and it contained a hidden core ingredient, the primordial Hongmeng purple qi. This news acted like a deep-sea bomb detonating within everyone's minds. The Saint Sun was the first to bear the brunt of the shock, left completely reeling by the revelation. Lin Bei had once again completely turned the tables. How could this be? One event after another eventually caused the Saint Sun to suffer a complete mental collapse. With a vacant gaze, he questioned the meaning of his existence, pondering where he should go and what his future held. The news quickly spread to the outer sect. The 120,000 outer sect disciples, along with the deacons and elders, were stunned upon hearing the report. Learning the truth from the Supreme Elder Ji Yan himself, they were left in utter shock and horror. It turns out the medicinal bath formula of Lin Junli was so potent, it was simply unbelievable. Heavens above, to use the essence of heaven and earth as a medium. Lin Junli's mastery of core ingredients is terrifying. Even Elder Sun was wrong, failing to understand it himself and leading us all to misunderstand as well. For Lin Junli to reach such a level of pharmaceutical attainment in only 3 days is truly fearsome. He is truly a celestial being descended to the mortal realm. An ancestor reincarnated. Cries of amazement echoed continuously. Countless disciples were left stunned and speechless by these actions. At the summit of Bai Peak, I was unaware that the secret realm hovering in the sky had once again been thrown into chaos because of me. At this moment, I was calming my mind and concentrating on my cultivation, while the black liquid boiled beneath me due to the intense flames. From time to time, bubbles would rise and burst, hissing as they simmered. The medicinal broth seethed, accelerating the absorption of every strand of its power as it surged into my body through my open pores. My 4 limbs, 100 bones and internal organs were all thoroughly cleansed and refined. At this moment, every hidden meridian throughout my body has been unblocked. That primordial violet energy was also drawn into my body, circulating through my meridians and, through the medicinal power, gradually converting into a reinforcement for my entire circulatory system. I devoted all my strength to soaking in the broth for 7 days straight. As the dawn of the 7th day broke, the broth once pitch black had turned translucent. This signified that I had absorbed nearly all the medicinal essence. A breakthrough was imminent. Sensing this, I suddenly opened my eyes, relying on the heaven-grade supreme cultivation technique, the Wuji Dao Tome. I did not waste a single shred of medicinal power. Through 7 days of tireless refinement, my cultivation level was advancing step by step. Finally, as the medicinal power was exhausted, my own spiritual energy reached a critical threshold, resonating with the moment I opened my eyes. A few seconds later, the medicinal broth within the cauldron exploded, creating a shockwave that sent water splashing several meters into the air. Utilizing the momentum, I leaped from the parted curtain of water, my upper body bare, revealing muscles as firm and sculpted as if carved from stone. Droplets of water streaked down my skin, accompanied by the lingering wisps of steam. A commotion immediately broke out within the Taiji Shu. Oh my! Senior brother Lin, why are you not wearing proper attire, even in a place where no one else should be? That's right, I thought senior brother Lin would just step out of the basin like that. But senior brother Lin's physique is truly exquisite. His features are so defined and well built. The female disciples were captivated by the sight of me emerging from the basin. Only a few elite inner disciples and true-blooded disciples kept their eyes fixed on my actual strength. Many recognized immediately that I had achieved another breakthrough, and could not help but calculate the implications in silence. To what degree has Lin Junli's physical body been enhanced? The elders watched me with great anticipation. Lin Junli is about to undergo the examination. Someone in the crowd suddenly shouted. At this moment, I walked straight toward the martial arts arena on the peak of Baifeng. Clearly, I was also eager to see exactly how strong my physical body had become. My gaze was sharp as lightning. I reached out and grabbed the specially crafted giant cauldron, which had never been tested before. First, I exerted great force with both hands, lifting it effortlessly over my head. Then, in an instant, this cauldron, forged from mysterious dark iron and weighing 230,000 caddies, was lifted by me with a single hand as if it were nothing. I even had strength to spare. This sight caused all the onlookers to widen their eyes in absolute disbelief. The inner sect disciples and elite disciples felt their hearts hammering against their chests, their faces etched with utter shock. Lin Junli, who previously possessed a strength of 18,000 caddies with one hand, has now just achieved a breakthrough to the 4th level of body tempering. Yet he has already managed to hoist this colossal cauldron weighing 230,000 caddies. Does this not imply that the secret formula he used has increased the efficacy of his physical tempering by 12-fold? A 12-fold enhancement of the physical body. How is such a feat even possible? The elders were all visibly shaken. Having undergone the body tempering stage themselves, they knew all too well that forging a solid foundation was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Sun Kaiyuan trembled uncontrollably, as even the 9-dragon golden ascension technique he took such pride in only provided a 7-fold enhancement. Yet today Lin Bei acted so casually that he essentially trampled upon the hard work of the elder's entire life. This is beyond reason. He has directly shattered the highest record in history. Since the founding of the noble clans and their cultivation of body-tempering arts, it must be said, Lin Bei, you are truly worthy of being called the Qilin son of our sect. A 12-fold, terrifying enhancement. His physical strength has effectively doubled, granting him 230,000 caddies of force at merely the 4th level of body tempering. With a foundation this profound, your future achievements will surely be immeasurable. Sect Master Li Qingyi's eyes glowed with fervor and immense joy. The more he looked at me, the more pleased he felt. The other elders were all beaming with delight, observing that watching my cultivation progress was a pure joy, as I not only advanced with lightning speed but also refined my technique. Each minor stage of my cultivation has reached the absolute pinnacle of perfection. Even though I am currently only at the 4th level of body tempering, everyone felt as if they were witnessing the rise of an invincible prodigy before their very eyes. An heaven-defying 12-fold effect. With a single wave of his hand, he commands 230,000 caddies of force. Saint Sun Juoyun's spirit was violently shaken, his face turning deathly pale, as he found this brilliant achievement truly impossible to accept. Senior brother Lin is simply too formidable. For our Taiji sect to possess a prodigy like Lin Junli, it is truly a great blessing, a 12-fold enhancement, directly breaking the theoretical limits of the body tempering formula. The disparity between one person and another is truly insurmountable. The inner and outer sect disciples gathered below could not help but stir in clamorous awe. As the entire Taiji sect buzzed with excitement, I concluded the test at the martial arts arena. And with a composed state of mind, I returned to the main hall to bathe. Having completed everything, I did not waste another moment. I stepped into the garden to gather several high-quality spirit herbs, and then I made my way directly to the charity hall of Wanshou Peak. I piloted my flying boat to land at the charity hall and walked straight toward the storage warehouse. Although Yun Mengli was no longer inside, a significant amount of rank 5 and rank 6 beast meat remained in storage. I gathered 3 large cuts of Azure Radiance beast meat from the pantry. I stepped out, feeling dark and content. This was the back meat of a rank 6 mysterious dark rhinoceros, condensing the essence of its entire body, with lightning arcs hidden between the muscle fibers. It is an excellent ingredient for tempering the body. However, consuming this meat alone would not be enough to sustain the process. My cultivation must be supplemented with heavenly treasures and earthly gems. I chose to stay at Baifeng to blend and concoct the mixture. I retrieved them from the jade box I carried with me. A handful of 9-heart snow lotus, 10,000 years of age, which I had just plucked. This lotus had originally been cultivated by the medicine garden elder within an ice array. He had tended to it with immense care and precision, but as I was in a hurry to cultivate, I could no longer concern myself with such matters and harvested it directly. I placed the snow lotus on the table, awaiting use. On top of the large cauldron forged from millennium cold iron, the earth core fire was already burning fiercely. With a wave of my palm, the rhinoceros meat fell precisely into the cauldron. The intense heat instantly ignited the lightning power contained within the meat. A sizzling sound rang out, scattering countless yellow and green sparks. Simultaneously, I tossed the 9-heart snow lotus inside. As the lotus petals touched the meat, they dissolved, instantly condensing into translucent ice crystals that encased the meat. Lightning fire and cold mist swirled and intertwined within the cauldron. Even at a glance, one could perceive that this concoction was extraordinary. Timing it perfectly, I flicked my wrist and threw in 2 stalks. Earth flame dragons sang crimson as blood. Upon entering the cauldron, the ginseng roots acted like living creatures, tightly coiled around the meat that was trapped between ice and fire. Suddenly, a brilliant tricolor radiance of red, white, and green erupted from within the cauldron. The beast's essence and the medicinal vapors within the steam transformed into the forms of a dragon and a rhinoceros locked in combat. The rich, intoxicating fragrance condensed into a tangible golden haze, casting a layer of golden radiance even over the distant house. This anomalous phenomenon persisted for nearly half an hour. I kept my eyes fixed on the fire intensity, while using my innate spirit heart to observe the conditions inside the cauldron. When the moment of perfection arrived, I extinguished the earth core fire. I crushed the final ingredient, the jade marrow spirit Ganoderma, into powder and sprinkled it down. The entire cauldron of meat broth suddenly fell silent. The strange phenomena dissipated, leaving behind only the rich, savory aroma of the meat, just waiting to be devoured. Upon catching the scent, the glutton within me immediately stirred. Without a moment's hesitation, I ladled out a large bowl and began to feast. It was at this moment that I resumed my cultivation, using the body refining technique. Inside Tai Zhenshu, everyone looked on, gritting their teeth in envy. Why was he eating again? This time, he was not only consuming the meat of a high-level demonic beast, but also using 10,000-year-old treasures as seasoning. I am truly humbled by such excess. The pot of meat radiated a tricolored glow. Just how delicious could it possibly be? Senior brother Lin, I beg of you, stop eating. We truly cannot endure this any longer. The disciples wailed in despair, for they were trapped within the secret realm. Though the sect provided them with rations, they were nothing more than common fare. Everyone was driven to the brink of madness by the aroma. Even the elders watching from the side widened their eyes in shock. Can high-level demonic beast meat really be prepared in such a manner? They stood stunned, as no one had ever witnessed such a culinary approach to cultivation. It was truly unbelievable. While extravagant, the method was undeniably effective. This former outer sect reserve disciple had managed to develop so many body-refining methods in just a few days. Could he truly be a genius? Sun Kaiyuan muttered to himself, and as the other elders heard this and looked down at my display, they too felt utterly astonished. Though it is a bit costly for the sect, if Tai Zhenmin were not a top-tier power, it could never sustain such profligacy. Forget it. Regardless, Lin Bei is a disciple of our sect. Using some resources is only natural. Sect Master Li Qingyi spoke up at this moment. In truth, even he felt a pang of heartache, as the high-level demonic beast meat and the various natural treasures were all foundational assets of the sect. Yet now they were being consumed as cultivation resources by me alone. And so the entire sect watched as I began the 4th stage of body ripening, utilizing this incredibly extravagant method. My 3 daily meals strictly followed this standard, and I even added midnight snacks on occasion. The entire sect progressed from disbelief to familiarity, and finally to utter numbness. Meanwhile, the strength of my physical body was advancing at a terrifying speed that left everyone gaping in awe. By only the 3rd day, I was already able to lift a 270,000 jin behemoth with one hand. Yet, deep down, I felt a lingering sense that something was still missing. Thus, on the 4th night, shortly after finishing dinner, I piloted my flying boat across the mountain peaks in search of an answer. After an hour of flight, the flying boat finally came to a halt above a secluded mountain. The scenery was breathtaking, the spiritual energy was abundant, and a grand, ornate palace had been constructed there. Adorning it were 3 large characters, Saintess Palace. One must know that in the path of physical cultivation, eating and my nourishment and cultivation have reached a stable state, but the quality of my sleep remains inadequate. It is time I find myself more suitable quarters. I stood with hands clasped before the entrance of the Saintess's palace. At that very moment, countless disciples within the Tai sect stood frozen, their eyes widening in shock. A preposterous thought surfaced in the minds of everyone present simultaneously. Could this fellow actually be intending to spend the night in the Saintess's private chambers? While cultivation focuses primarily on nutrition and training, poor sleep inevitably hinders the growth of one's chi, blood, and spirit. I have consumed dragon liver and phoenix marrow to temper my foundation, reaching a state of infinity. Yet my cultivation path remains slightly lacking in this one specific aspect. Between heaven and earth exist many rare treasures that offer immense benefits to the human body. If these materials could be utilized, they would not only soothe the mind and aid sleep but also nourish the physical form while one slumbers. I had long heard that the saint and saintess command high status and live in opulent quarters. The saintess's palace, in particular, is known for its extreme luxury. Every construction material used there is of the highest grade. I pushed open the doors and strode into the compound with an air of nonchalance. I gazed around this massive structure, filled with curiosity. The tens of thousands of disciples of the Tai sect held the saintess in the highest regard. While I did not know much about the saint, the name of the saintess, Jiang Qinghan, was like thunder to my ears. It is said she possesses the rare Wanhei Chaoyuan Dao physique, a talent of unparalleled caliber, with strength that surpasses the saint by a significant margin. Her temperament is cold and detached, her heart solely dedicated to the Dao. She is exceptionally diligent in her cultivation, carrying an aura reminiscent of a solitary flower, one that can only be admired from afar upon a high peak never to be defiled. As for her appearance, she is of peerless, world-toppling beauty. Her popularity within the sect far exceeds that of the saint, yet having joined the sect so recently, I had not yet caught a glimpse of her. I had not seen the legendary saintess herself, yet I could not encounter her in person. But the private chambers, where she resides day and night, were now mine to explore at my leisure. I traversed the corridors and made a circuit, simply inspecting the palace. While it appeared grand, in reality there were few places truly suitable for dwelling. The central main hall felt desolate. As far as the eye could see, there were only a few reading desks and meditation cushions. I walked slowly, finally reaching the second floor, where I discovered the true boudoir of the saintess. The room was vast, with thin white curtains draped from the vaulted ceiling, obscuring half the space. There sat a round bed crafted entirely from jade. The circular bed was spacious enough to accommodate 2 or 3 people, yet it held only the blankets and pillows belonging to the saintess herself. I stepped forward, reaching out to test the texture of the jade bed. It felt cool to the touch, yet it did not chill the bones even after prolonged contact. Instead, it emanated a subtle warmth that seeped into my skin. I could not help but raise an eyebrow. The items used by the saintess were indeed extraordinary. It seems I have come to the right place. With this thought, I felt an eager desire to test it, and as fatigue from a long day of cultivation washed over me, I naturally laid down. In an instant, a refreshing flow of energy emanated from my spine, spreading throughout my limbs and meridians. My tense muscles immediately began to relax, and even more miraculously, the vital energy within my body felt as if it were being guided by an invisible hand, causing its circulation speed to increase significantly. Hiss, this is pure bliss. I could not help but let out a soft moan of contentment. Just as I engaged in these series of actions, the scene above, within the Taiyi True Void, had long since erupted into chaos. How dare he intrude upon the saintess's private chambers? Lin Bei, you scoundrel, you are truly shameless to the extreme. That is the sacred sanctuary of our goddess. I beg of you, get down from there. Tens of thousands of eyes stared fixedly at the image of the bedchamber, and regardless of whether they were male or female disciples, their heads buzzed with fury. After all, the saintess's prestige was peerless. She was the most beautiful woman in existence. As the foremost prodigy of the central continent and the saint realm, she was the very face of the entire sect. She was cold and reserved, preferring solitude to such an extent that she did not even keep maids in her chambers. And yet, relying on the fact that the sect was currently empty, I not only swaggered inside but even climbed directly onto the saintess's personal bed. This spectacle left her supporters watching, their blood pressure surging, nearly causing them to faint from anger. Heh, this boy has a unique eye. This bed is crafted from 10,000-year cold jade, layered 9 times over. Not to mention the effect. Even for a cultivator at the soul formation stage, lying here can cleanse the marrow and reshape the bones. Sectmaster Li Qingyi laughed as he provided the introduction. The reason he knew so much was that this bed was one of the gifts he had presented to the saintess for her coming-of-age ceremony years ago. To gather enough materials for its creation, Li Qingyi had personally made a journey to the northern frost wilderness. The other elders listened and chuckled, having no real objection to my actions. After all, with the sect currently vacant, it was within my authority to collect the resources. Every type of cultivation resource was technically within my jurisdiction to claim. Only Elder Shu Yue of the Doctrine Transmission Peak wore a hesitant expression. He started to speak several times, only to stop before finally opening his mouth. Fellow brothers, have you forgotten that our great Saintess Zhang never actually entered the Taiyi True Void in the first place? As soon as these words were uttered, the entire venue fell silent. The smiles on everyone's faces instantly froze. Disaster, how could they have forgotten such a crucial detail? The Saintess is currently in seclusion at Zhanlong Cliff and has not entered the ruins. During this Taiyi Zhenshu enlightenment, the Saintess remains within the sect and could emerge from seclusion at any moment. If she were to suddenly return to the palace and find an intruder on her bed, wouldn't she strike Lin Bei dead on the spot? While everyone else was pondering this, I down below was preparing to sleep. I reached out and pulled the jade pillow beside me to rest my neck upon. I know not what material this pillow is made of, but it exudes a faint, peculiar fragrance. I could not help but take a deep breath, muttering that it was quite fragrant. Having said that, I grabbed the silk quilt and drifted off into a deep slumber. He dares to rest his head upon the Saintess's pillow, and even takes a deep breath like that. That is where the Saintess rests her face. You scoundrel. A lecherous thief, a base villain. I shall not coexist under the same sky as you, and so I remained in the Saintess's palace. Since the sect is vast and I am the only one here, there is nothing for me to be wary of. In the days that followed, I would wake up at dawn, first to practice a set of Wu Ye Zhensing fists, then head to Baifeng Wanshou Peak to gather ingredients for my meals, and spend all of my remaining time on cultivation, only returning to the Saintess's palace once the night was deep. Furthermore, the Wuji Dao Zhang speaks of the Dao. Cultivation emphasizes the balance of hardness and softness, so after finishing my daily practice, I would steer my flying boat to traverse the sect for a while. On that particular day, after concluding my practice, I felt invigorated. After departing from the martial arena, I sipped on nectar stored for 100,000 years by a fairy, all while navigating my flying boat freely through the mountain peaks. Hey, look over there, is that boy heading towards Zonlong Cliff? Just then, an elder spoke up. As soon as those words were uttered, the other stared in astonishment, tracking the trajectory of the flying boat. Upon seeing the path it took, their expressions changed in unison. It truly is Zonlong Cliff. This boy is acting recklessly. If he goes there, could he disturb the Saintess and force her to end her seclusion prematurely? If the Saintess were to emerge, it might be a good... Lin Bei was unaware that he was the sect's chosen disciple. If he were to become suspicious or accidentally kill someone, would it not reveal that the place he was heading to was indeed the dragon-slaying cliff? Many elders could no longer maintain their composure. At the same time, I arrived above the dragon-slaying cliff and gazed upon the massive stone stele. Beside me, the uncle curled his lip, thinking the reputation of the dragon-slaying cliff was mere exaggeration. The primordial true dragon is a tier 9 divine beast when fully grown, essentially invincible in this entire realm. Could our sect's founder truly be someone capable of defeating the Dragon Clan? I did not believe it, and as a wave of drowsiness washed over me, I climbed back onto the flying vessel, which quickly transformed into a streak of light, departing and vanishing into the horizon. Within the Taiyi True Void, the elders were stunned. Could it be? Did he simply fly away just like that? Is he not curious about what lies on the dragon-slaying cliff? Was his journey to the peak really just to do that? The next morning after finishing my meal, I headed to the martial arts arena in high spirits. I sensed that a breakthrough was imminent. The blood energy within me and my spiritual power had resonated and reached their limit. Thus, after a brief warm-up, I lifted one of the heavy tripods. I swung the massive tripod with fervor, and with each movement, the bones and tendons throughout my body cracked rhythmically. My blood energy surged, and a mysterious profound power suddenly descended upon me. I had broken through. I dropped the massive tripod in my hands, closed my eyes to sense the change for a moment, and then a bright smile spread across my face. This time, I tested myself by lifting an even heavier tripod several times, finally grasping the true extent of my current strength. The entire Taiyi True Void was thrown into an uproar the moment I lifted the 400,000 Jin tripod. To possess a single-handed strength of 440,000 Jin at the 5th level of body tempering is simply too outrageous. Lin Bei is surely invincible within the body tempering realm, is he not? If I were to exert my full strength in a single punch, the explosive power would likely exceed 1 million Jin. The more one thinks about it, the more terrifying it becomes. Even a primordial true dragon in its infancy would likely only reach this level of strength. No disciple, whether inner or outer sect, could remain calm. Their minds were trembling. The reaction of the elders was much simpler. Very good. Lin Bei is truly worthy of being the prodigy of our sect. As long as Lin Bei does not perish, perhaps in 100 years or so, our sect will produce yet another supreme being capable of transcending the gods. The Gale Valley is the most perilous place on the Myriad Beast Peak, where outer sect disciples dare not even set foot, and where only the most elite and skilled inner sect disciples venture. Only those with sharp senses dare to take such risks. More than half of those who enter the valley can only linger in the outer perimeter. Yet, who else could compare to me, clearly only at the 2nd level of body tempering, but capable of sweeping through the entire journey. And now I have even crossed the Great River, stepping into the latter half of the valley. One must understand that this rear section is a true forbidden zone. The bloodlines of the spirit beasts here have long since mutated. A single one of them could tear an ordinary disciple to pieces. The outer court disciples whispered in agitation, while the inner court and true disciples furrowed their brows in doubt. Is Lin Bei being a bit too arrogant? Although he practices the Wuji Dao storehouse, he is ultimately just a mortal. How does he dare to enter the latter half of the Lifeng Valley? Just now, in the first half, Lin Bei slew a 3rd-order Ling Beast equivalent, which is equal to an ordinary cultivator at the 6th level of body tempering. Perhaps his confidence has skyrocketed because of that. If that is the case, he is destined to suffer a great loss. Having entered the latter half of the valley, I remained as composed as ever. Feeling the powerful auras deep within, not only was I unafraid, but the vitality in my blood began to surge. Since I have come this far, I might as well play a high-stakes game. No longer holding back, I directly unleashed my aura to provoke the entire area. In the eyes of the spirit beasts, this action was undoubtedly an act of defiance. And so deep, resounding roars echoed throughout the Soon after, the beast nearest to me could no longer restrain itself and emerged from the thicket. It was a grizzly bear with claws gleaming with a crimson hue, seemingly imbued with extreme heat. It was a 4th-order bloodline spirit beast, the Firepalm Bear. Within the Taiyi Zhenshu, a true disciple immediately recognized it, identifying the origin of this bear demon. The Firepalm Bear possesses a sturdy physique and formidable defense, while its claws contain high temperatures capable of inflicting massive damage. Among 4th-order spirit beasts, it is a rather troublesome presence. Perhaps no other beast need intervene. The Firepalm Bear alone is enough for him to experience the true intensity of Lifeng Valley. Surely, when that time comes, he will temper his ego and realize he should retreat. At this moment, the Firepalm Bear viciously launched the first attack. Its massive body leaped high, descending upon me like Mount Tai crushing down. Such a beast truly lacks any sense of fair play. I tilted my body and sprang aside, swiftly dodging the frontal strike. Although the demonic beast could not comprehend human speech, it could sense from my tone that I held it in complete contempt. Immediately it flew into a rage, lunging toward me with all its might. I remained rooted to the spot, relying solely on upper body movements to evade, thanks to the insights gained from the Golden Battle Profound Heart during our clashes. Combat has sharpened my battle intuition to a boundless degree, allowing me to fight purely on instinct. My body has become as formidable as any martial arts master. With a mere thought, I can even analyze my opponent's motions to predict the trajectory and impact point of their strikes. In the end, I even stood with my hands behind my back, my expression perfectly serene, dodging every attack simply by swaying left-right and bowing my head. This display of nonchalance left everyone in the secret realm staring in absolute astonishment. What kind of movement technique is this? An inner disciple asked, unable to contain his shock. Feng Qiyue, the peak master of the preaching peak, spoke with an excited tone. It is not a technique at all, but a skill Lin Bei has realized through the heat of battle. Lin Bei's combat intuition is advancing at such a rapid pace that he can now predict the attack trajectory of the fire-rampaging bear with ease. As these words were spoken, the crowd of disciples erupted in commotion. To grasp an opponent's habits after only a brief exchange was unthinkable. He was evading the beast's attacks with absolute perfection. He is truly a man born for battle. Lak Luli nodded in agreement at this moment. That is correct. Even from his previous battles, I had observed that Lin Bei possesses exceptionally high combat intuition. Hearing such high praise from a peak master, widely regarded as having the greatest combat strength in the sect, the disciples were even more shaken. The Tai Saint's son watched, rendered speechless. He had originally assumed that while my talent for mastering martial arts was high, I would surely have a weakness when it came to actual combat. Yet, who could have guessed that combat was also my forte? The calm, composed manner in which I faced a powerful enemy was already far beyond anything he could compare himself to. Truly, a madman. The saint's son cursed under his breath, struck with fear. This fire-rampaging bear possessed a cultivation equivalent to the 7th level of the body-tempering realm, and being a 4th-rank bloodline beast, its combat power was formidable. The force of a single strike from such a creature would surely exceed 50,000 caddies. Is Lin Bei not someone whose physical constitution lacks the ability to bolster his defense? If he failed to dodge, it was not impossible. From where did he derive the audacity to use his opponent as a whetstone to refine his evasion? After numerous dodges, my attitude had thoroughly enraged this demonic beast. Realizing I was merely toying with it, it suddenly roared at me. The sound was like thunder, echoing throughout the entire valley. You think yourself mighty simply because your voice is loud? Silence, you wretched beast. In the next instant, I clenched my fingers into a fist, channeling 33,000 caddies of force. Power surged through my sinews and bones. My footsteps were as heavy as treading upon a towering mountain. With my left foot planted firmly forward, my right arm coiled back. I unleashed a massive punch, hurling it directly toward the bear's head. With the 5 mountains stance, central mountain peak, my fist struck the bear's skull. Its roar was abruptly silenced, replaced by a dull, resounding thud. The fire-crested bear, renowned for its impenetrable defenses, instantly shattered. The ferocious aura of the punch continued to surge forward after piercing through the beast. The momentum of the fist did not dissipate. It created a vacuum in the air, rippling outward like a shockwave. The sheer scale of the impact was a visual spectacle that pushed the limits of perception. Everyone within the Tai True Void stood there in a stupor. A Tier 4 bloodline demonic beast, the fire-crested bear, could not withstand a single blow from Lin Bei. Is a heaven-rank upper-grade martial technique at the minor completion stage truly this terrifying? To master such a technique is to be utterly invincible. Countless disciples watched with trembling hearts, their perception of reality shattered by a scene that set their blood boiling with fervor. Sect Master Li Qingyi clapped his hands forcefully, his eyes brimming with delight. My performance had completely exceeded his expectations. When faced with battle, Lin Bei remained composed, demonstrating both courage and tactical acumen. These traits were perfectly aligned with those of a peerless genius. Congratulations, Sect Master. Our Zong sect has gained another heaven-gifted prodigy. Lin Bei's future achievements are immeasurable. He might even surpass the legends of old. Reclaiming the former glory of Sect Master Zong is no longer an impossibility. The elders offered their congratulations in unison, and Sect Master Li Qingyi felt a deep sense of joy. If he could live to see the Tai True sect rise to dominate the 4 borders and the entire continent, he would have no regrets in this lifetime. Just as he was about to utter a grand heroic proclamation, he suddenly heard the disciples around him cry out. Look, Lin Bei has encountered another demonic beast. Looking down, he saw that a new battle had indeed erupted before them. After securing victory, I did not retreat, but continued to press forward, quickly crossing paths with a formidable foe. This demonic beast possessed a Tier 5 bloodline. After 5 exchanges, though I bore a few wounds, the tide had shifted from weakness to advantage, and finally, the 5th-rank bloodline demonic beast was slain by my blade at the 80th exchange. The Wuyue Zhenxing Fist, having only reached the minor accomplishment stage, possesses such power. It truly lives up to its reputation as the sect's premier martial technique. Should Lin Bei return to rest now? Why does he continue to venture deeper? This is far too dangerous. If he encounters 2 demonic beasts simultaneously, his life could very well be at stake. The group of elders, who were initially watching the spectacle with ease, were suddenly gripped by panic when they saw that after I had slain the 5th-rank bloodline beast and suffered injuries, I did not retreat but continued to press forward. What does he intend to do? Does he mean to clear the entirety of the Lifang Valley? They watched as I did not cease my advance, adopting the second level of the body-tempering posture, channeling the momentum of the Wuyo Zhenxing fist to push the profound heart of battle to its absolute limit, elevating my combat skills with every passing moment. This scene left everyone in a state of stunned silence. Deep within the Lifang Valley, covered in blood, I pierced through a fifth-rank bloodline demonic beast with a single strike, exhaling a stream of turbid air before me. At this moment, even though my robes were stained with blood, my spirit remained vigorous. Ever since entering the valley, I have been like a machine that knows no fatigue. I have swept through, engaging in battle after battle, relying on the cultivation methods for the body-tempering stage found in the Wuji Dao Tome. Beyond the method of consuming demonic beast meat to refine the body, I use slaughter as a form of cultivation, honing the body through combat to achieve a dual advancement in practical experience and physical fortitude. This method, combined with the heaven-defying talent of the Golden Scroll, has amplified the effectiveness of the profound heart of battle, allowing me to carve a path of slaughter today. My entire being has undergone a transformation as if reborn. Though I have yet to test it, I can sense that my strength has increased by more than just a small margin. The spectators within the Taiyuan sect were left utterly shaken to their core. Lin Xuan, why is he so valiant? From the entrance of Lifeng Valley to the depths of the rear, Xiaowan watched without even blinking. This is truly terrifying. And our Lin Xuan possesses only a mortal body. This is simply unbelievable. I too am a mortal, so why am I so weak and of such ordinary vitality? The Holy Sun remained silent, unable to hide the sense of defeat growing in his heart. Many elders could no longer conceal their agitation, save for Zhongding, who watched my advancing figure with a grave expression. As they drew closer to the end of the mountain valley, a sense of unease seemed to linger in the air. Li Qingyi noticed the anomaly and could not help but ask, "Junior brother Zhong, what is the matter?" "Sectmaster, there is something I am unsure whether I should say." Zhongding pondered, his expression revealing a trace of hesitation. Li Qingyi, caught up in the excitement of the moment, laughed generously and said, "We have been martial brothers for thousands of years. Speak your mind, for how could I ever blame you?" "Indeed, indeed." The other elders echoed him, laughing aloud. "Junior brother Zhong, the appearance of a peerless genius in our sect today is a joyous event of great magnitude. Even if you have committed an error, we shall not hold you accountable." Hearing this firm guarantee from Dong Dao, Elder Zhongding's eyes welled with emotion. No longer concealing the truth, he opened his mouth to speak. "In truth, it is not a matter of great significance. It is only that this newly recruited peerless genius of our Tai True sect is likely about to meet his end." As soon as these words fell, the laughter that filled the air ceased instantly. All the old men stared at him, dumbstruck. Li Qingyi's face darkened as he demanded, "Junior brother Zhong, what nonsense are you spouting? How could you curse a junior like that? Sectmaster, how could I ever be that sort of person? The reason I say this is because I have been keeping a primordial Ban King imprisoned in the back mountains of Lifeng Valley. You still dare to argue even if you did keep it." Li Qingyi stopped mid-sentence, his voice faltering. "You keep what, a primordial Ban King? Why was I not aware of this?" It was from that time I traveled to the southern heaven's myriad earths. I seized this fortuitous opportunity where the great demons gathered in the endless mountains. I originally intended to secretly tame it, to provide the sect with a pleasant surprise. Zhongding forced a stiff, awkward smile and spoke. The other elders finally regained their senses, and every trace of joy had vanished from their expressions. "What did you say? Junior brother Zhang, how could you keep a matter of such gravity from the sect? That primordial Ban King is a demon beast with an 8-level bloodline. It is only a single step away. A mature primordial spotted king beast can cultivate to a level of strength equivalent to a human saint king." All the elders immediately became anxious. Li Changming and Xu Yuwei were so incensed that they practically pointed their fingers at Zhongding to berate him. An 8th-ranked demonic beast that is also a relic from ancient times. This existence is second only to the level of divine beasts. Furthermore, since the primordial spotted king belongs to the tiger species, its combat prowess is even more ferocious. Lin Bei is currently heading toward the end of the valley. If he encounters this beast, his life will certainly be in grave danger. Junior brother Zhang has truly committed a grave error. Luo Liuli frowned, but she did not voice complaints like the others. No one could have foreseen that such a day would come. The entire sect is now besieged within the Tai True ruins. "Junior brother Zhang, what is the strength of this primordial spotted king?" Hearing the eldest senior sister speak, Zhongding hurriedly cupped his hands in a salute. Even though it is still a young tiger, a single swipe carries the immense force of 1,000,000 jin, coupled with the fact that all ancient relic species possess innate divine abilities. I estimate that for a human cultivator to defeat it, one would need to be at the peak of the soul-refining realm and utilize a heaven-tier technique or higher. One would have to expend several days using long-range divine abilities to gradually wear it down to death. As for engaging in close-quarters combat, forgive my bluntness, but melee combat with an ancient relic species is far too perilous. As a peak master-level elder, Zhongding's assessment was naturally accurate. Therefore, as soon as these words were uttered, everyone immediately understood the strength and realm of that primordial spotted king. Their hearts sank. It was far too dangerous, and absolutely not something Lin Bei could contend with. At the same time, their conversation quickly spread down to the lower sect. Very soon, all disciples of the Tai True sect became aware of the situation. For a moment, everyone was stunned. What? Elder Zhang raised a primordial spotted king at Wanshou Peak. And it's an 8th rank ancient relic demonic beast. Heavens, this is a creature from legend. Doesn't that mean Lin Bei is in extreme danger? I hope senior brother Lin, for the sake of heaven, does not proceed any further. At that same moment, at the foot of Wanshou Peak, I rested for a brief while before turning my head, my gaze fixed upon the depths of the valley. Just now, in a moment of uncertainty, I seemed to hear the low, guttural growl of a ferocious beast. The roar was not particularly loud, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared, yet it sent a cold shiver down my spine. Within the depths of the valley, a tremendously powerful demonic beast clearly resides. I narrowed my eyes as alarm bells rang in my mind, and I completely suppressed my aura, leaving no trace behind. Avoiding the main path, I followed the smaller trails, advancing with the utmost caution. Half an hour later, I leaped onto a large tree. Gazing into the distance, I suddenly caught sight of a craggy, rock-strewn valley 300 meters away. At the far end, a colossal shadow lay crouched, feasting on its prey. In its jaws lay a demonic beast of indistinguishable form, already torn to shreds, with only white bones remaining. Suddenly, this shadow seemed to perceive something. It abruptly raised its head, its cold vertical pupils staring directly in my direction. It was staring straight at the branch where I stood. Is its sensory ability truly this formidable? I raised an eyebrow in astonishment, finally catching a clear glimpse of the beast's true form. It was a tiger-type demonic beast, its body massive with distinct stripes, exuding a ferocity that far surpassed my current ability to contend with. Host has encountered an 8th rank primordial demonic beast. System has activated the world's strongest official mission. Host must kill or successfully tame the beast within 50 days to receive 3 chances at the prize wheel. Just as I was observing the creature, the system's prompt suddenly echoed in my mind. I had not expected to trigger an official mission reward, and one that offered a spin of the prize wheel at that. Based on my preliminary assessment, this 8th rank beast is incredibly powerful. It is certainly not something I can handle in my current state. Thinking this, I ceased my observation and immediately turned to leave the area. In the days that followed, the moment I awoke, I would head straight to Lefeng Valley to cultivate. I pushed my body tempering technique to its absolute limit. Aside from not approaching the territory of the primordial half-king, I have thoroughly cleared out every other area within the valley. Seeing this, the numerous elders felt completely at ease. Lin Zhonli is truly a favored son of the heavens. Not only does he possess both courage and strategy, but he is also sufficiently cautious. Knowing there is a great danger ahead, he does not act rashly. And his level-headed nature is truly formidable. I suspect this boy, Lin Bei, is nearing a breakthrough. I wonder what level his power has reached after these 3 days of cultivation. At this moment, under the watchful eyes of the entire sect, I stood upon the martial arts arena, continuously throwing punch after punch. A few breaths later, the bones and sinews throughout my body suddenly resonated with a loud chime. A powerful surge of intensified strength suddenly descended. A glimmer of brilliant light flashed in my eyes as I seized the opportunity, swinging the massive stone boulder on the ground with reckless abandon. All the while, I continuously increased its weight, until the heft finally pushed my physical strength to its absolute limit. Simultaneously, I realized that at the 3rd stage of body tempering, my raw strength had reached 108,000 jin in a single arm. Host discovered. Breakthrough to the 3rd stage of body tempering achieved. Time-limited check-in mission activated. Head to the 100 Bear Garden to receive the Golden Heart reward. Aptitude trait, Intelligent Heart. The Intelligent Heart grants one deep affinity and innate understanding of the wood element. The spirit-chasing heart enhances one's comprehension in this aspect. As I was piloting the flying boat, I suddenly heard the system's prompt. This system is truly clever. To activate a reward related to vital essence at this very moment. Could the Intelligent Heart be worried that I might not comprehend the body tempering techniques atop 100 Bear Peak? I pondered this in my heart, not realizing that I had arrived at my destination.